Thank you. I now call this meeting of the Washington City Council to order on February 9th. I invite you to stand as Councilman Peralt will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Peralt, the floor is yours. Madam Clerk, would you please proceed with the roll call? Here.
Here. Present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. There are no minutes requiring approval for this evening. The next item is amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments from council?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Pro Tem Fritz, the floor is yours.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda, adding a presentation for Macon Respis before the Martin Stearns presentation, to combine items E and F under new business, and to remove item I on new business. It needs further revision.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I also have an amendment to make.
Okay. Councilman Tyree. Yes, item I has been removed, yes.
I move that we strike the proposed funding for outside support agencies from consideration at this time, if we are here to make a decision.
No, we're just here to hear presentations.
So I would still suggest that we move to strike the proposed funding for outside support agencies from consideration and to defer such requests to regular budget cycle, consistent with prior council discussion, where we spoke about would we have individuals and separate entities report to council. We spoke about that being done during the budget cycle. I believe consistent with prior council discussions, as I spoke, in the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, General Statute 159-8 and 159-11. Requests for city funding from external entities should be considered during the formal budget process when council is provided a comprehensive view of the city's financial condition, revenues, expenditures, and competing priorities. Considering such requests outside of the budget cycle limits the council's ability to evaluate them within the context of the adopted budget and may undermine sound fiscal management.
I heard that as a motion, am I correct? Or just, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye with a show of hands and vocally, please.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Seeing none, motion carries. So we will strike new business, presentations, funding for outside agencies, item A from the agenda for this evening. I will go ahead and say, because we do have a lot of people that were here this evening to provide those presentations, so I'll give you the opportunity for those of you who would maybe like to go ahead and depart for the evening. I apologize for the inconvenience. Next, this evening, we will have presentations. This evening, I would first like to take a moment to recognize Mr. Macon Respis, our electric director. Macon has served the city of Washington for 18 years. He has worked his way up through dedication, hard work, and deep knowledge of his craft. Over the time that I have had the opportunity to work with him, I have truly enjoyed getting to know Macon. He is incredibly knowledgeable, thoughtful in his approach, and deeply committed to doing things the right way. His work is not easy, but it is essential. And our city is better because of his leadership and his service. While we are excited for him to begin his next chapter, his departure is a great loss to the city of Washington. We are grateful for his years of service and wish him nothing but continued success. Macon, would you please come forward? All right, at this time, we'll move on to our audit presentation.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Just for the record, my name is Timmy Swindell. Most of you probably know me, but just for the record, I'm the Finance Director here at the City of Washington. Each year, the city is required to have an annual audit, and the auditors are required within 45 days of submitting our audit to the LGC to report to City Council the results of that audit. Our audit for fiscal year 2025 has been submitted, and once approved, I will provide you a final hard copy of the audit as well as publish it to the website for public viewing. However, today, the auditors plan to provide a very good summary in her slides of the audit results. I would like to add that in my opinion, excuse me, the general fund is strong financially. As you will see, fund balance increased over $2 million for the last fiscal year, bringing the city in at 50.2.5% of expenditures. This is well within our fund balance policy and slightly higher than our peers that we are compared to by the LGC for one that has a budget our size. The fund balance figure is one of the most important figures that the LGC looks at. So you're going to hear me talk about that number a lot. You're going to hear me talk about it all through the budget. So I will say more financial information will be forthcoming to you at budget time. But for now, I'd like to turn it over to our audit manager, Kelly Gooderham from Martin & Starnes, to present the fiscal year end audit 2025. Kelly?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, gonna attempt to do this. All right. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to take a brief moment and briefly clarify the auditor's role for each audited local government in the state of North Carolina. We are engaged to audit the city's financial statements and to report whether they are fairly presented in accordance with accounting standards and free of material errors. The city's financial statements are the responsibility of city management and the governing body, and the information included in these statements are the results of their decisions surrounding how public funds are allocated and used. Our work focuses on financial reporting and compliance requirements within the scope of our audit. We are a private firm, unaffiliated with the state. However, we do issue the city's report to the state on behalf of the city. Further, not all CPA firms are qualified to perform such governmental audits. There are additional requirements involved with specific governmental audits, even more so when a yellow book or single audit is required, as is the case with the city each year due to the amount of federal and state dollars expended. Next, I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody involved with the audit. Finance is quite amazing and very helpful and cooperative, and their hard work does not go unnoticed. And lastly, most importantly, we have issued a clean, unmodified opinion, which basically means that we found nothing to be misleading to the reader of your financial statements. That was supposed to be that slide, I apologize. Here we show a 2-year comparison of your general fund revenues and expenditures before transfers and other financing sources and uses. So as you can see, revenues increased around 1.5 million, or roughly 10%, which was due to an increase in your ad valorem tax revenues, sales and services, as well as restricted intergovernmental revenues. And then expenditures also increased, but only 147,000, or 1%, which was mostly due to an increase in your public safety expenditures. Technically challenged, I apologize. Here's a 10-year comparison of your general fund balance. So after transfers and other financing sources and uses, your general fund balance increased about 2.9 million over the prior year. Some additional items to note for fiscal year 25 activity. Revenues received were more than budgeted by 2 million, which means revenues came in more than was originally planned or budgeted. Expenditures were under budget by 2.4 million, which also means that the city spent less than what was originally budgeted. So here's a calculation utilized by the LGC to compare units across the state. It's your available fund balance as they dictate it. So you start with your total fund balance within the general fund of 12.65 or 12.6 million, less your non-spendables, which includes prepaids and inventories of 99,000, less your stabilization by state statute of 3.3 million, to arrive at total available fund balance of 9.2 million, which was an overall increase of 2.6 million over the prior year, primarily due to that increase in fund balance. So another calculation utilized by the LGC, and bear with me, I'm going to throw a lot of figures at you on this one. So the LGC also utilizes this to compare units across the state in certain population groups. The city currently is in the group for entities over $10 million in expenditures and also has an electrical system. So the LGC categorizes based on total expenditures with or without electrical systems and what have you. So this calculation is just general fund expenditures and transfers out. So it ended at 50.25, which was an overall increase of 14%, again, due to your increase in available fund balance and total fund balance overall. A little bit of statistics based on the LGC in that same category that the city is in, the $10 million and over in expenditures. The average for fiscal year 24 was 49.13%. So even at that, you are meeting the above average, or you are above average. Additionally, according to the LGC, this calculation actually excludes, in their point of view, your PAL bill expenditures. So the available fund balance percentage that is reported to the LGC is actually 53.01, which is much better than that and a lot more than your average peer group. Next, we'll go through your top 3 general fund revenues and expenditures. First, we have your ad valorem tax revenues, which saw an overall increase of 310%, or 310,000, or 5.5%, which was just due to an increase in overall tax collections, as your tax rate remained the same as the prior year. Then we have other taxes and licenses, which saw an increase of roughly 236,000, or 5%, which was mostly due to an increase in your automotive licenses, as well as your local option sales tax distribution. And then we have unrestricted intergovernmental, so an increase of just under 34,000, or 1.5%, which was due to an increase in your franchise taxes. Now, the top 3 general fund expenditures. We start with general government, decreased around 384,000, or 16%, which was due to primarily a decrease in your non-departmental other operating expenditures, as well as an overall decrease in salaries and related benefits. Public safety increased around 565,000, or 6%, mainly due to an increase in salaries and related benefits for your rescue department, as well as an increase in capital outlay expenditures. Then we have your cultural and recreation, decreased around 431,000 or 11%, which was due to a decrease in your capital outlay expenditures for the library and aquatic center as compared to the prior year. This slide shows your total debt service expenditures for the general fund as compared to the prior year. There was an overall increase of $231,000, which was due to the issuance of new debt, which in turn increases your principal and interest payments accordingly. And this slide actually shows you long-term debt for all of the funds as of fiscal year 24 and 25. I did want to notate this does not include your pension liabilities, your OPEB, your LGERS, things of that nature. This is just long-term debt, so notes from direct borrowing or installment purchases, water, sewer, state revolving fund loans, and then your lease and subscription liabilities issued. So you can see there was a rather large increase of about $10.2 million, which was due to issuance of debt for the AMI project that has been in the works for a number of years, as well as stormwater and water fund debt issuance. Some further information on debt is your legal debt margin, which is basically the difference between the maximum amount authorized to be incurred and the amount that you currently have, which then indicates the amount that you could essentially take on should the need arise for additional debt. So we start with your assessed valuation, tax valuation, and then your legal debt limit, which is exactly that. You cannot take out any more debt than that calculation right there. The long-term debt amount, I did want to point out, that is slightly different than the ending amount that I showed on the previous slide, because legal debt margin does not apply to leases and subscriptions, so that's why that amount has changed slightly. It does not include your leases and subscriptions. So as you can see, what you have outstanding right now is nowhere near what you're actually authorized to take on, should that happen. This slide shows a 5-year comparison of your property tax collections. 21, 22 were fairly consistent, and then slight increases from 23 to 24 and 25, which is pretty expected in this day and age. I mean, property values, you add businesses, that adds to your valuation. You add housing, that adds to your valuation. Overall property valuation in general has been increasing across the state, so it's only normal to see a gradual increase in something like this, especially if you've not increased your tax rate. Now for the enterprise funds. So we noted an overall net income for all enterprise funds except for, as you can see, the sewer, electric, and stormwater, which all operated at a net loss. Your non-major, that very last column, includes your solid waste and your cemetery. So broken out, your solid waste had a net income of $115,000, and cemetery had net income of $67,000. I did want to note that this is on your modified accrual basis, so this is going to be in your back schedules of your financials whenever you do receive them. This is how you all budget for these funds. It's not on government-wide. And I did also want to talk about that large $2 million transfer for the electric fund. It includes $247,000 for economic development, $1.6 million to the general fund, and then $168,000 to the cemetery fund. And if you guys have questions, you are welcome to stop me or wait until the end. $67,000. Okay, this slide and the additional enterprise funds will be on the next slide. This is essentially a very similar calculation that we do. It's an internal calculation. LGC doesn't look at it like this, but this kind of gives you an idea of Your general fund, available fund balance, this takes your available resources, which is your unrestricted cash, because restricted cash is, it's available, but it's only available for what it was originally issued for, and then your accounts receivable. You reduce that by your current liabilities to arrive at what is available for non-current obligations, and then your total operating expense for each fund to arrive at a available resource percentage of expenditures for the current year, kind of like your available fund balance for the general fund. So water fund ended at 129%, which was a decrease from a 148%. Your sewer actually increased to 44%, which was 38% in the prior year. Electric fund decreased from 63% to 30%, and we'll go over that on the next slides. Stormwater ended at 102%, which was a decrease from 116% in the prior year. The airport fund, and I'm going to give some, I know this probably looks a little daunting because it's the only one in the negative. So it did end at 1,163%, which was actually an increase in comparison to the prior year, because that was 1,374%. The reason for this is the airport has received a large grant over the years, several large grants over the years, and if you receive a grant in advance and you've not yet spent it, you've not met all of the eligibility requirements in order to be able to recognize that revenue, and so we have to report it in a liability. So as the airport keeps on spending down those funds, that liability will get less and less, and therefore that should correct itself once those grant funds are spent. And then non-major increased from 40% to 49%. And just to show the electric fund as compared to the last 5 years, and also to briefly explain the pretty significant decrease, because as you can see, 21 to 24, it remained pretty consistent. In 25, there were several factors that led to that 33% decrease. So there was an overall decrease in available resources. Then there was an increase in your operating expenditures, and then also an increase in your liabilities due to issuance of debt, which would be included in that current liability, not the entire piece of debt, just what's due within the next year. So thus the significant decrease. That should bounce back over the years as you continue paying on that debt. All right. The LGC requires certain information to be presented to each board for each audit that we present. This information comes from what the LGC calls a data input report. It's basically a form that we prepare for the city, and it gets uploaded to the LGC's website along with your audit report. We do this for each municipality and county. And there are certain performance indicators that we are required to tell you about and to advise you on. So one of them is your quick ratio for water sewer. So as you can see, it's decreased from 23 to 24, and then significantly decreased in 25. The primary reason for that is because as you can see, the current liabilities almost doubled, and then the increase in your current assets wasn't so drastic, therefore the significant decrease. On the flip side, the LGC is concerned with anything less than 1, so you are still in good graces with the LGC, even though it's declining, and it should bounce back the more you pay off that debt. All right, some additional information that comes from that data input report. First, the good news, stable property tax valuation and collection percentage. We noted a high available fund balance percentage for the general fund. Water sewer net income and cash to expense ratio was favorable. And this is the one requirement that I am required to present to you for each presentation that we submit. Financial performance indicators of concern, or FPICs, because that's a mouthful. This includes anything from deficit fund balance, statutory violations, or actual findings noted in the audit. None of those were the case. Your FPIC for this year, which was the same as it was last year, it's your water sewer condition of assets. The LGC considers anything less than 0.5 as an indication of asset replacements in the near future, and the city ended at 0.35. So it's just basically telling you that your assets are getting old and they might need repairs or replacements in the future. Now that last one, that last FPIC, will need a response to the LGC, which finance will happily handle, and it will need to be signed by the majority of the board before issuing to the LGC and sent within 60 days of this audit presentation. And now I will take any questions.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions? I'll look at Mayor Pro Tem first.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yield the floor.
I had a few questions. This looks spectacular, as
Thank you.
best I can tell. As far as the auditing that you guys do, now these numbers look really good, but the award of excellence that we get, is that based on our numbers? Is that based on our reporting?
It's based on reporting. It is not there to say that you guys did a good job or anything like that. It's just basically, I have no, so I don't misspeak. Let me get my notes. Okay. Per GFOA, the goal of the program is not to assess the financial health of participating governments, but rather to ensure that users of the financial statements have the information they need to do themselves.
Thank you. Also, I read through the larger audit, the 200-page one, and I struggled to understand how much money does the city actually have available. If we said we want to write a check and pay off some debt, you mentioned the fund balance of $9.2 million. Is that the available balance if we said we want to do this or that? What is the amount of money that's actually available to the city?
So technically, under governing standards, you have different buckets of fund balance. You have non-spendable, that is out of the board's control. Those are things that are not in cash form, like inventory, and so that is what it is. You have restricted, which is external restrictions that is out of the scope of what the board can decide. I mean, it's an external restriction. Commitments are contractually obligated commitments. It usually involves a capital project of some kind. Assignments is under the board's control. That is what you guys have assigned to be spent on future projects or put away somewhere for future projects. And then you've got unassigned. So technically, your unassigned is a better indication as to what you have available that has not already been spoken for.
And was that number 9.2 million?
Your unassigned fund balance for general fund was 7.2 million, because your unassigned takes into account your spendables, restricted, committed, and assigned, whereas your available fund balance per the LGC only takes your restricted by stabilization by state statute and your non-spendables.
Thank you. I also noted you had mentioned that our income was a couple million over initially budgeted, and our expenses were, I think, 2.5 million under the budgeted. So our overall discrepancy, $4.5 million to the good. We were $4.5 million better than we had initially budgeted.
Not that number per se. Revenues and expenditures are treated differently. The fact that you budgeted for a set amount of revenues and you got more, that's usually a good thing. If you were over budget, that means you're not pre-auditing, and that means that you spent over your means, which is a statutory violation. So they're treated a little bit differently. You can go over budget in your revenues because not everybody can foresee what's gonna come in, but you should be pre-auditing and should always make sure that whatever you've budgeted to be expended is under budget.
And we were a good bit under budget.
Yes, you were.
So the other question I have, last year, council had decided to raise property taxes. But looking at these numbers, raising our property taxes only brings in, I think the number was maybe $1.8 million additionally. But looking at these numbers, it wouldn't appear that we would have a need to do that.
I don't know the last time that you had a valuation. Do you remember? Okay, so you're coming up on it. So having a new valuation, the fact that you have not raised your tax rate in a number of years, things are still going to be pretty consistent. Once you have that valuation, though, as you can probably imagine, I mean, it's been seen across the board. Everybody's property values have they've skyrocketed, even in Catawba County where I live. So if you are looking at keeping things, neutral, then I would probably take that into account during valuation, because you still have to take into account you've got government services that you are required to provide.
Sure, but we were $4.5 million to the good on this, so there's not an apparent.
That was overall revenues, though.
That's
Your
right.
your property taxes only increased $310,000, which is, in my opinion, in a city of this size, is kind of low.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Councilman Horton, did you have any questions for the auditor? Councilman Peralt? Councilman Tyree? You do? I yield the floor to Councilman Tyree.
I have a couple questions for you, but first I want to say thank you. Thank you for conducting this audit. Thank you for working with our city employees. And then I want to say thank you to our city for the hard work that you've done to provide information, to provide the numbers, to provide the facts, to manage incoming council, to manage outgoing council. I want to just say thank you all, to all of the department heads working diligently to ensure that everything was provided the best that you could. I want to just say thank you. Now I got some questions. I'm going to start with one of the last things you said, statutory violations. There's a lot of conversation about the possibility of previous council to which I sat, that we had left the city in a position that would probably take about 10 councils, on just random numbers, to bring us back. Can you talk to us of what a statutory violation would do for a city?
For the most part, statutory violations, if they are material enough to your financials as a whole, they result in a finding. So, I mean, all you have to do is look at Statute 159 to kind of see what all we look for. I'll be honest, our audit procedures don't catch everything. As much as everybody hopes and thinks that we do, our audit procedures are not designed to catch everything. But if it's a statutory violation, like over budget, over expended, or over contingency, it's a finding. It's a finding in which you have to respond to the LGC, and that's about it.
So now I'm going to start from the top. You said not all firms are able to conduct this level of audit. What's the difference in the city of Washington and another city that another type of firm? Like what do you mean by that? What's the criteria, I guess, is what I'm asking. What's the difference?
I'll be honest, that is not something that I handle. I just know that there is a lot of checks and balances that we have to make, because we get audited on the audits that we perform. And there are certain requirements, certain continuing education requirements, independence requirements that say another CPA firm that just does for-profit, nonprofit, they are not required to handle any of that. And so it takes a CPA firm that does enough governmental audits to know all of those requirements and to be able to adhere to them, but also to have the expertise to understand all of the ins and outs of governmental accounting. So there are other audit firms out there that perform a couple of governmental audits, but they are becoming fewer and far between because there is so much work involved. And you can't really stay abreast of all of the changes and all of the things to look out for if you do one or two audits. So there are some firms that if you're a single audit or a Yellow Book audit, they won't touch you because they just don't have the manpower. So that's kind of what I meant.
Thank you for that. Another more direct question for you. Were we late?
No, sir.
Thank you. I heard you say there was nothing misleading in this audit.
Correct.
When you say misleading, for what you can speak to that, would any of that point to any drastic, let's say, higher percentages for employees that you normally wouldn't see, that would increase or decrease certain spaces? Would that point to any corruption or mishandling of funds based on any city officials? Like, what is misleading?
So something like that, we would question, we would look into it because it would pop out on our analytical procedures. But ultimately, anything like that is approved by the board through the budget cycle. And it's nothing that we can say that you can't do that or, you know, that's not within the scope of our audit.
Right.
If we discover misappropriation, then that goes a little bit further, and that's probably also past just an audit finding. But when we talk about material misstated, we are looking for adjustments that we have found that for whatever reason the entity refuses to make the adjustment. And so we either change our opinion or most of the time they just post the entries and make it right. But that's basically what it means, that based on all of the procedures that we have done, everything in here is as materially correct as it should.
Page 7, fund balance, general fund.
Chris, would you mind flipping back to slide 7? Thank you.
Page 7, yeah. It should look like this. Page 7 of 189, yes.
That one?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
So according to the bottom numbers, that's a 10-year snapshot on the general fund.
Correct.
So just to reiterate what you spoke, to make sure I'm hearing what you said, over the past 10 years, we had a slight drop in 2020.
Which is to be expected.
And then we see a gradual incline, and then 24 to 25, we went from 9 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the 2 million plus came from.
Yes.
To show that the strength of the fund balance is above average.
Basically, what that means is you received more revenues than you expended, and or you issued, so debt proceeds and transfers in increases your fund balance. Expenditures and transfers out decrease your fund balance. So between those, there was an overall net increase.
Page 16, debt services. That's it. Could you explain debt service to us, please? Like, what's that mean, debt services?
So debt service, and again, this is just general fund, so this doesn't include all of the other funds that have debt included. Debt service is your principal, which is the payments that you make to decrease your overall debt, and then the interest. And so that's the two combined. And prior to this year, I believe it stayed fairly comparable. It's just the general fund specifically had, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but they did issue a lot of debt this year. And that was mostly related to the AMI project, if I remember right. And there was also leases and subscriptions included in that as well. Yes, long-term debt, and then you also had new leases. And depending on when those were entered into, if they were entered into the end of the year, then obviously your principal and interest payments will increase next year. So that, take that into account too.
Gotcha. Assess valuation, on the slide that you had, assess value. Is that explaining the city's current worth, like the value of the city? Like,
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So there's the total valuation amount, and then you have to increase it by discoveries and then decrease it by releases. So when you do get your audit report, it is one of the schedules towards the back. I swear I didn't just make that number up. But yes, it comes from your tax scrolls.
okay. On the slide when you spoke about the airport, you said the airport would correct itself. What did you mean by that?
So essentially, as you all know, over the last 5 or 6 years, the airport has been awarded a significant amount of money from the state. I think total thousand for SCIF, which was State Capital Infrastructure Funds, was $30 million, and then a transportation, we call it TRDF. I think it's Transportation Regional Direct Fund. Don't quote me on that. You received that in advance, and that was $13.5 million. And so as that, those projects keep, as they're ongoing, that 13.5, because I think the $30 million is done by now, right? 20 million, thank you. 20 million, that is completely spent, so now they're just really spending on 13.5 million, and so as that gets spent, that liability will then decrease, and that whole thing, because right now it's like roughly 12 million of that 13.1 million in current liabilities, that is your advance from grantors. So, yes, it should correct itself as that money is spent down.
So I don't see in the report where we show if there's any money spent on the airport that the city has to pay out, meaning with $20 million over the past how many years? I'm sorry.
5 or 6? Yeah.
So for, let's say over the past, I'm not sure how far back you went, but let's say the past 3 or 4 years with an income of $20 million, has the city had to pay anything towards the airport?
Minimal, but most of the time, no. That SCIF grant that I mentioned, there was no local match to that. I don't think there's a local match to the TRDF. So that was just for the various projects that that funding was awarded for. So that didn't go into the operations of your airport fund. They are two completely different funds, different schedules. So when you do get your audit report, and Tammy and Jeannie can help you with this, or you have my contact information, obviously, you can kind of see year over year how much has been spent and how much has ultimately been recognized. But I think that should give you the information. It's just the way governmental accounting works is you've got your parent fund, which is the Warren Field Airport Fund, and then you've got your Enterprise Capital Project Fund. And we do that to keep track, so there's no commingling of funds, and only grant funds are spent on grant projects. And then the activity gets then rolled up, in a sense, to the parent fund on your government-wide financial statements. And so that's why, if you look at the individual airport fund, those grant dollars are not in that fund. They're in their own project fund, so they are spent on the project, not on operations. And the only city funds that are spent are required local matches if they apply to that grant.
So on the city spending side of it, not the grant side of it, is there a line item for the airport that the city has been budgeting outside of the 20 million?
Yes, it is.
Do you happen to know that amount?
Yeah, yes, I do. It's 247,000 approximately
So the city gives the airport $247,000 a year to,
in this year's budget.
and this year's budget is
In this
200?
year's budget, it's over 240,000 in this year's budget.
Last question. Oh, I have two more, I'm sorry. You said our assets are getting old. What do you mean by that?
The water sewer condition ratio just basically takes your total asset cost and then your total current year depreciation and then overall accumulated depreciation and then spits out this ratio. And this is an indication that your assets that are currently on hand are getting close to being fully depreciated. And that is just an indication that because water sewer assets have a fairly long lifeline or estimated useful life, and so if they're getting to the point where they've been fully depreciated or getting close to it, that usually indicates that either some repairs and maintenance, or maybe you've already done that. But it's just an indication that the LGC wants to make you all aware of. And so you have plans in the future for those capital expenditures.
And last thing, I'm not sure if you can answer this one or not, or if the city would need to. When we heard about raised property taxes, your response was value versus rate is what I took it as. So the value of things seemed to have went up.
Mm-hmm.
But the property tax rate, I believe, the city reduced. Is that?
Yes, that's correct. The rate was reduced, but it was increased over revenue neutral.
So the,
So it was 58 cent and went to 48.5. Revenue neutral was 0.3775, I believe.
so the property tax piece was from the value, not the increase in the approval from council on raising taxes.
The property tax value is a huge factor in people's property tax bills, yes.
Gotcha. Thank you. With that, Madam Mayor, I yield back.
Thank you, Councilman Tyree. Thank you. I just have one question. Do you have any recommendations for council for improvement?
Unfortunately, that is not something that I can speak to. That would impair my independence. But there are multiple consulting services out there. The NCACC can definitely help you with stuff like that. The LGC can. I would definitely reach out to local municipalities for anything that they do that maybe you guys could. There's resources out there. Unfortunately, I cannot be that resource.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Davis? I yield the floor to Councilman Davis.
I have a couple quick questions. I think Ms. Swindell answered a couple of these questions that I had, that he had just asked. But the property value revaluation, I think, happened in '25, which moved our property values from about $1 billion to $1.5 billion. Does that sound about? Sounds about right. And then, like you said, council would have had to go down to 37.5 cents to get that, keep that revenue neutral, where they're paying the same taxes year over year, from a dollar standpoint.
Revenue neutral is the amount that the city receives. Revenue neutral doesn't have anything to do with the tax bill that the citizens will get.
Okay.
because that's inclusive of your value. A big piece of that formula is the value of your property.
Right. Now, seeing this audit right now, would you see a need to not have gone revenue neutral for this coming 25 to 26 cycle, considering everything went really well?
The budget process is very difficult, as those of you that are new will see. To balance that budget, that was required for the general fund. If you want to change it back to revenue neutral, the council and the board is going to have to decide what services they want to cut to get back to that. That is something that you decide and give us direction on.
And then there's a recent $3 million project that was voted, I believe, this fall. Is that included in this $21.4 million debt that we currently have?
If you're talking about the Cherry Run project,
Yes,
no.
ma'am.
The LGC has got to approve that debt before you will see that.
Okay. And do you know when that'll be? Is that kind of streamlined, or is that sometimes they don't?
They're waiting for the audit, and I don't know if Hope is waiting on anything else. Are you waiting? So once we get through with this, we'll submit it to them. We have to wait to get on their calendar. I think we're expecting to get on their calendar in April. So we'll know in April whether they approve that debt, and if they do, then we're going to come back before you for that.
Okay. And then, I don't know if this will be an auditor question or not, if she's looked at kind of some of the historical side of things. Do you have a payroll trend and trajectory over the last, I'd say, 7 years?
For the city specifically?
Yes.
Not to my memory, no. I do have that information in our records, and I can send you that, but I have not committed that to memory.
Okay. And my understanding from looking at the 2018, 2019 payroll, and then also looking at the 25, 26 payroll that Ms. Swindell sent to us, it was about 9.8 million in 2018 to 2019. And then in 25, 26, we were, I believe, a shade under 17 million. Does that sound correct?
I have not had a chance to look at those numbers as you've evaluated them, so I can't confirm that. I don't know what columns you've pulled, if they're correct or any of that. That would be something that we would need to look at, and also provide you the context behind those numbers would be my advice.
Okay. And then I believe the auditor, you responded to an email, I think it went from 14 to 23 million. Do you recollect that, or would you have to go back to your email?
No, I mean, I remember looking at your question and
Okay.
getting the information from our audit files, which
Right.
included all of the funds, all salaries, and then related benefits. So the information that I provided to you might differ a little bit with what Tammy provides to you, because it just depends on how we group things, what she presents to you, and things of that nature. But yes, there was an increase, which, I mean, if you're treating your employees the way that they should be, that would be a very standard expectation across the board. I mean, you don't want subpar employees, and if you want good employees, you're going to have to pay them.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Is that common, a 70% increase over, I'd say probably over the last 7 years? Is that pretty common from?
there's a common increase for all the entities that I audit to have some sort of increase from year to year. So if we're looking over a 5-year plan, 5-year term, yes, that's
It's
probably,
pretty common for you.
yeah, especially with cost of living increasing. I mean, and this is all just my personal opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard for salaries to increase, especially with the amount of employees that the city currently employs.
Okay, yeah, I got an email from the county, because I just wanted to compare what's happening in the county and then what's happening in the city. The county their payroll during those 2 periods went from 17.5 million to 23,047,000, which was about a 30% increase, whereas their cash on hand during that same time, 15 to 28. million, and then their debt balance went from 60 million in 2018, 2019 to 34 or 35, right, shade under 35 million for 24, 25. And now, did you get a chance to look at our long-term debt as well over the last 7 years?
I mean, I've looked at your long-term debt personally over the last 7 years being on your audit. So you can't really compare, even though you guys are in Beaufort County, you also have to take into account your actual agenda for the city as opposed to what Beaufort County is probably planning for. You know, they may have major projects that they're saving up for, and therefore they needed the debt. Their employee force is going to be completely different than a municipality. You also have to take into account whether or not their workforce is a bit older and they're retiring off, and then so the younger workforce gets, you know, less money starting out. So there's just a lot of factors. You can't just take numbers at face value.
Right, and I'll admit my ignorance. I'm a rookie to this government stuff.
Yeah.
But our debt did go from 5.4 million to 21.4 million here in the June 30, 2025. June 30. Is that common of similar municipalities, or is that sort of an outlier? You would say. I know you deal with a lot of cities.
It depends. It
Right.
really actually depends. I mean, just a couple years ago, there was an $11 million increase in your debt for police station. Thank you. I've got other entities that have similar situations. So your AMI project, that was a huge project that's been in the making for at least 3 or 4 years. One that I've discussed with Matt and Tammy several times. And that was 7 million, 8 million? 9.7. I had them both just in the wrong order. So yes, in addition to that and the other debt issuances, yeah, I would expect that because the AMI project is a large undertaking.
Right. Well, thank you so much I know y'all really went into overtime to get this ready, and I'm
That's what we
very,
do.
very appreciative because we weren't expecting it. So thank you so much, and Ms.
Absolutely.
Swindell, y'all did a great job.
Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, did you have any?
Antoine can speak first. He might cover it. I hate to steal anything. Go ahead.
All right, Councilman Horton, I yield the floor to you. You have questions?
Sorry. I had 2 questions on the debt. You had mentioned the debt limit for the city at 80 million. So that was some percentage of the assets of the city, right?
Of the value, the value of the property across the city, yes.
So cities aren't like, you know, if I go get a loan, they base it on my ability to pay it back. Cities are a little different. Is that correct? They base
Cities
it
are a
on-
lot different, yes.
They base it on a city's ability to tax the citizens. Is that correct?
It depends on the type of debt, for one thing. But if the LGC is involved, they look at a whole slew of things that I'm not even going to be, I'm ignorant to because I don't deal with stuff like that. So I'm not even going to try to explain what that is if I don't know. But your credit rating, if you've had recent issues, late audits, none of which you guys have had, over the last, I would say 10 or 12 years, you've had minimal findings, if any findings. I don't think you've ever been late, not on my watch. So it's not just what your assessed valuation is, it's just that is a calculation that the LGC takes into context to make sure that you're not going in over your head, of which you were nowhere near.
Nowhere near, but $80 million seems like quite a bit if we need.
$80 million would be quite a bit. I would not advise going to your total limit.
Sure.
But it just gives you an idea that per statute, you are allowed this much. However, you only have a fourth of that. I don't do math in my head, but I'm pretty sure that was correct. So yeah, you have way more that you are authorized to incur, should the need arise, but you were well under that limit.
Sure. This next question may or may not go to Tammy. I mean, the debt that we have this year, this is not a surprise. I've read the budget that was passed in 2025. This was anticipated. All these numbers are very public.
Long-term debt is, you don't just go out to the bank and say, I need $10 million, and it's done. The board has to approve it, the LGC has to approve it, you have to present it in public meetings, so the public is aware of it. So no, these decisions do not happen overnight, and they're many years in the process.
And that's sort of my point, and I don't know who this goes to, because this seems great, it seems very visible, but there's been a lot of concern in this community when we brought up this debt number, that it was a bold-faced lie that the city had no debt. Now, it's not crippling, as you said, it's not a mystery, it's been well documented. What might be the reason that I would say the bulk of the community seemed to be completely unaware that we had any debt, or that it was going up substantially, but like you said, not crippling?
No,
What might be the reason for that? I mean, this stuff is all public, is that?
it is all public. Your financials are on the LGC's website for sure, but they're also always posted to the city's website. Citizens are more than welcome to just go onto the city's website. I'm sure they can ask anybody that works for the city finance. I'm sure not everybody at the city would be able to tell you that, but no, it's public information. It is not hidden by any stretch.
I have one additional question for you. I saw, and this was in the audit that was prepped up, it listed on page 17 of the audit, I don't know if you have it available there with you, that our current portion of long-term debt was $10 million. And you have it listed here as 900,000. Now, 10 million seems like a crazy number, considering our total debt's only 21 million, but that's what it said on page 17.
Of my PowerPoint?
No, ma'am, of the actual audit. We don't, if that's something that's better to get back in an email, that's fine. I don't.
No, I see what you're saying. 5.9 in current portion of long-term liabilities for governmental activities and 4.7 million for business-type activities. However, let me check one thing. Yep, a portion of that is also your OPEB liability, none of which I presented on any of these, and your LEO, your law enforcement officer liability. Those are also included in those. So your actual current portion, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but it's less than what's presented on that page.
Interesting. And I'm sorry, this may be better suited to Mr. Robertson. Councilman Tyree was asking about the cost of the airports to the city. I don't think that was in any of this report. Do you have any estimate on what the airport may have cost the 10,000 citizens of Washington over the last 5 years, an estimated number? So they didn't hear you, Bobby, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The amount of money over the past 5 years that the city has sent to airport is about 1.6 million. So our average cost is over 225,000 a year.
The 10,000 residents of Washington have paid $1.6 million to keep this airport in business, is what you're saying, just to be, I think we're on the
Yeah,
same
the answer to that
page.
question is yes.
Okay, thank you. That's not to you, I'm sorry. I think we both shared a concern there. Your presentation was great, thank you.
Councilman Horton, I yield the floor.
All right, thank you. So, quick question for you. We have a lot of citizens here tonight, and also we have some that may be viewing online. So, these numbers look great, they sound great. However, over the last several months, we've been hearing that the city of Washington is in a horrible state. So, in simple words from you, not numbers, but in simple words, how is the city doing?
Well, that would be an opinion that I'm not allowed to provide.
Okay.
But I will say that according to other municipalities, even the same size, smaller, larger, I mean, because I'm a numbers person, and I know what the LGC is looking for,
Right.
the city is doing fine.
Okay. Now, one more, let me ask last question. Say that last part one more time.
The city is doing fine.
Thank you.
I yield the floor to Councilman Tyree.
If I could get you to clear one more thing up, if there's a possibility here, is there a difference in debt and deficit?
Deficit means that you've spent more than, like your bank account. You withdraw your bank account and it's in the negative, that's a deficit. Debt service has nothing to do with that.
So there is a difference between debt and deficit, and the city doesn't seem to be, based on these numbers and what you just said, there's no deficit
No.
with the city of Washington.
No.
But there's healthy debt for the city of Washington. Well, there's debt for the city of Washington.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilman Peralt, Councilman Horton, any other questions from council? Thank you. Oh, Councilman Davis.
It's okay.
I don't know if you can answer this. Seeing these numbers, would you see the need for a tax increase to have happened this next fiscal year in 25, 26?
I can't really answer that.
Okay.
That's a management decision.
And then I want to get one more quick item. The city manager's office in the 2018-2019 budget was $349,575, and then the 25-26 budget is $637,835, which is an 82% increase. Do you is that I know there's been a lot of inflation the last few years. Is that a common number in municipalities this size that you see?
And those numbers were, I'm sorry, what? I didn't catch that first part.
The budget for 2018-2019 was $349,575. 25-26 was $637,835. There was $140,000 of that this council voted, previous council voted as a severance package. But that's an 82% increase over the last 7 years.
So that's the total budget appropriated?
Yes, for the city manager's office. Yes, ma'am.
That is not really something that I can give any advice on
Okay.
as to, I mean, again, each municipality is different, so I can't really speak to that one.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just looking at, like, I got this data from Anita Ratcliffe with the Beaufort County office, and their county manager office, which is 4 times the citizens, it went from 260,474 to 327,000, which was a 25% increase. So I just a massive increase. I was just wondering if there was.
A
was
lot
a
of factors would come into play with that, because your city manager department is not just salary, it is operating expenditures, it's also capital outlay. And that is definitely something that, as current city council members, that you have the control over. I mean, ultimately, it's between you and management. So, but as far as comparing to Beaufort County, I don't think that's a proper comparison.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good? Thank you so much. I appreciate you sticking with us tonight.
Thank you.
Next, we have items on the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to remove from the consent agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, at this time, we will move to comments from the public. If I could get somebody to please bring me, thank you so much. When called to speak, each speaker should identify him or herself by giving his or her name and address. Each speaker will be limited, thank you. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and each group's representative will be limited to a maximum of 5 total minutes. Each group is encouraged to designate a single spokesperson for their groups. During the comments from the public portion, please make sure that your comments are to address the council as a whole. First this evening, we have James Smallwood.
Good evening. My name is James Smallwood. I live at 4624 U.S. Highway 17, Washington, North Carolina. And I'm here to represent the P.S. Jones High School Alumni Association, who own lots 47, 48, and 67, and 58. We respectfully oppose the proposed zoning from R6, R6S to B2. This request is inconsistent with the future land use map and would introduce commercial noise, lighting, and increased traffic on the narrow dirt road next to the drainage ditch that flows into the Pamlico River. Because this area is in a flood zone, the proposal raises serious environmental and safety concerns. This is a historical African-American residential neighborhood with churches and long-standing families which have invested in their homes. A commercial use such as vehicle storage would bring rodents, pollution, and ongoing nuisances that are not compatible with this community. Approving this request would constitute spot zoning, which North Carolina law allows spot zoning only when it is reasonable. And this proposal singles out one parcel, conflicts with the comprehensive plan, and harms the surrounding neighborhood. For this reason, we respectfully ask the City Council to deny this rezoning request. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Smallwood.
Mayor, may I respond to that request?
Sure, Mr. Banninger.
Actually, the planning board recommended not to actually rezone that property, and the petitioner has withdrawn. It's not on the agenda, so the case is over with.
Okay. Mr. Smallwood, could you hear that? Thank you, Mr. Robertson. I believe our next speaker, Timolyn Moore, I apologize if I butchered your name, was also on the same issue. Did you still want to speak this evening? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Next, we have Tracy Warren.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council. My name is Tracy Warren. I live on the corner of West 13th and North Market. I'd like to talk to you about the 15th thoroughfare. And I call it a thoroughfare because the street is where most everybody in this room lives. We walk to see neighbors. We walk on a pretty evening after dinner, and it's quiet, that sort of thing. A thoroughfare is simply to move from one place to another, from vehicles through the city. And so 15th Street should be called a thoroughfare. I want to tell you about from 1975 to 2022, there were 78 vehicles involved in 47 fatalities and 46 fatal crashes. 14 pedestrians were involved during that time. In the last 5 years alone, 417 total reported crashes occurred on 15th Street. 3 of them were fatal. 11 involved disabling injuries. One of the fatalities was my neighbor who lives across the street. He was just trying to get home after his walk at the Oakland Cemetery. The crash rating, from what I can understand from my research, the crash rating for 15th Street from Carolina Avenue to Brown Street is 814.76. The average statewide for a similar road is 526.64. Now, if I were a baseball player, I'd like to have a batting average of 814. That doesn't speak good for driving or trying to walk across 15th Street. When you were younger, you probably played a video game called Frogger, where you tried to leap your frog across the street. My neighbor didn't make it. When people see 5 lanes of highway like the North Carolina Department of Transportation wants to put there, I guarantee you most of the folks in this room who drive will drive 5 lanes of highway like it's a highway. If you're driving 3 lanes with a protected left turn here and there, 1 lane going one way, 1 lane going another way, you will drive like it's a street. I'll take a street over a highway 2 blocks from my house any day of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Next, we have Liz Barnhart.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Elizabeth Barnhart. I live at 110 West 13th Street, and I'm here also to talk about the the 15th Street project. I saw it on the agenda for the first time this past Thursday. It's an issue that I have followed for years, but due to personal circumstances have been less involved in recent years. But I saw it on the agenda. And it caught my eye that there was a resolution to consider taking it out of the STIP. And I wondered if something occurred at this particular, if there was a particular issue at this particular time that caused it to be on the agenda. I still don't know the answer to that. Maybe there is and maybe there isn't, but I just really appreciate the opportunity to be involved in our city government and have the opportunity to offer some thoughts and ask a few questions, and so I'm going to use that opportunity tonight. For people new to the issue, there's a very long record of dialogue over the years, and the city has done an excellent job of maintaining those records of our agendas and minutes. So for those that are new here or weren't involved before, a look back at some of the agendas and minutes from the years 2015 and 16, 2020 and 21, and now again in 2025 would be a good way to research some background. There's been an awful lot of insight offered and thoughtful dialogue. In the here and now, a decision to remove this already funded project from the STIP, it just seems like a pivotal decision. And I guess to the extent that any of my thoughts help anyone with decision-making power, I wanted to offer a few thoughts and questions. So speaking just for myself, I think that Washington can do better than the currently funded plan as it stands now. Proceeding exactly as is may improve traffic flow east and west through town, but it'll come with long-term negative consequences for adjacent neighborhoods, and I believe also the entire central portion of the town. At the same time, it leaves under-addressed some significant safety issues. The biggest one for me is the intersection of 15th and Market Street. I get that there are concerns about the Stantec plan that a previous council approved. But it was proposed following a well-implemented and favorably received process. Maybe reducing the current number of lanes would not work so well. I share that concern. At the same time, maybe there's things that were good ideas. Maybe the narrower pocket median design with strategic breaks could be reconsidered.
Thank you, Ms. Barnhart. Unfortunately, your time is up this evening.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next on the agenda, we have Mr. Ned Holbert.
Mayor Bravo, City Council members, thank you for this opportunity. My name's Ned Hulbert. I live at 1232 North Market. I'm also going to speak briefly, I hope, about 15th Street. 9 years ago in December 2016, I was one of many people who spoke to City Council asking them to vote down the 15th Street DOT request at the time, which it did, and it did again 3 months later. In 2021, as it has been noted, Stantec was employed by the city to come up with a much more people-friendly, pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly design. That was turned down by DOT in 2022 and 2023. And I just wanted to say a couple of things which have been said before, but as many of you may not have heard these things over the years, because it's been a long time. The DOT's Super Street plan upgrades the function of 15th Street to what's called a major arterial, which means that it prioritizes moving traffic volume and speed. And what the Stantec design did was approach it very differently. And the reason we would encourage you to take a look at having a really systematic discussion about the virtues of the Stantec versus the DOT Super Street design is the human factor. Is the Super Street design really going to make things better in the future? Our sense is that it's not, because you're going to have a 90-plus foot wide concrete, asphalt wide expanse along 15th Street, which is going to look like Carolina Avenue. How is Carolina Avenue going to be hospitable to walkers, bikers? That's a question. Is it really a wise decision? Can we do better? And the next question is really, what kind of a future do we want for the north side of town? The south side of town is on the river. It's done a lot of great work on a pathway where you can meet all kinds of people. Now, that pathway that's proposed by the Stantec design on the north side of town would give us a chance to meet each other in a lot more diversity, and it would do something for the long-term soul of this town. So I'm asking you to think about something much better than a super street. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holbert. Next, we have Shannon Russell. Chris, could you please adjust the clock to 5 minutes?
Hello. Shannon Russell, 746 West Main Street, on behalf of the Main Street Coalition, exercising a right that predates this building, this body, and every office within it, the right to speak freely about my government. A sitting member of this council, unhappy with my political speech, chose not to debate it, not to ignore it, but instead attempted to punish and silence it. In January, City Council member Nick Fritz sent an email to the chair of the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners requesting I be fired because he did not like what I said about matters of public concern. An excerpt of the email is as follows, quote, I imagine it's ground for immediate termination and a report to the bar. She's also a licensed attorney. If possible, I would like her conduct reviewed in a closed session at the next county commissioners meeting, and I'm hoping she will be asked to resign her position immediately due to her wildly inappropriate conduct. I've attached a link to hours of her videos End quote. This email is inappropriate and it is unconstitutional. Elected officials are state actors, and when a state actor uses their position or influence to punish a citizen for protected speech, that's not politics, that's retaliation. It's a violation of the First Amendment, the bedrock of our American system of government and our way of life. The Supreme Court has been clear for decades. The government may not retaliate against a citizen for engaging in protected speech, especially political speech. And political speech criticizing public officials sits at the very core of the First Amendment. Attempting to get someone fired because you dislike their viewpoint is not governance. It's abuse of power. A citizen's statements based on public records, observable conduct, official actions, and documented facts such as emails are not defamatory simply because they are uncomfortable for you, Mr. Fritz. Criticism is not defamation. Accountability is not defamation. Transparency is not defamation. The Constitution does not protect the comfort of our public officials' egos. The Constitution protects liberty. I speak as a citizen about my government, and for that, a sitting member attempted to interfere with my livelihood. That should concern every person in this room and every citizen within our city, regardless of party, personality, or position. Because if it can be done to one citizen, it can be done to any citizen. Elected office does not confer the power to punish dissenters. I'm not seeking an apology. I'm demanding adherence with the Constitution. Now, unlike the mayor, who's currently suing our city in federal court on multiple claims, including alleged First Amendment violations for our city, I do not require an out-of-state law firm partnering with a bankruptcy attorney in Greenville, North Carolina, to file a lawsuit on my behalf. I am a sassy attorney who's been practicing law within the state of North Carolina for almost 2 full decades. I'm all out of patience for mediocre elected officials trying to sidestep the Constitution. I do not need to be tempted with the opportunity to stand up for myself, my city, or my country within a justice system that I have spent my entire adult life working to preserve. Trust and believe, I am happy to oblige a fight for the Constitution. Furthermore, the city is hereby on notice. Another lawsuit is coming if Mr. Fritz and his tax team brethren do not cease their attempts to misrepresent facts, chill protected speech, and weaponize their elected office. As a final reminder, holding public office is a responsibility, not a shield, and certainly not a weapon. The Main Street Coalition will continue to hold you accountable to the offices which you have the honor to serve in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Russell. Next this evening, we have Charles Phillips.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I didn't know how to sign up as a group. I'm here with Bob Rich. So we are a two-man group. If I can get 5 minutes, I probably won't need it. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, Chris, could you just, thank you.
Bob is going to give a short handout. Some of that was mentioned by Mr. Warren about the accident rate. My name is Charles Phillips. I live at 169 Edgewater Beach Road in Washington. I've lived in Washington all my life. Bob and I are co-owners of Midtown Crossing Shopping Center on 15th Street. And I know without a doubt, there's no question that everybody in this room that's here about 15th Street wants to see something done. It's a very dangerous corridor, has been for a long time, and improvement is desperately needed. we were only aware last week when we learned that Mayor, I believe you and maybe Mr. Peralt met with some DOT officials January 28th, had a productive meeting, and we were elated to hear that there was an agreement reached, we were told at that meeting, that the DOT would offer an additional 90 days of right-of-way acquisition time, which was supposed to be in February. They moved it to June of 2026, a 90-day period. The reason for that in that discussion was because Mayor, rightfully so, felt like we've got a lot of new council members, we have a new mayor. Everybody here is not up to date on what this DOT plan or maybe the other plan entails, any other plans. So we thought it was a brilliant idea to delay the right-of-way timing acquisition to allow this council the right to review the plans in completeness. NCDOT, according to Allison Thornburn, who I've corresponded with in the last few days extensively, NCDOT agreed to do that and has already been in the process, as requested, of scheduling a hearing, or not a hearing, but a meeting for y'all to exchange information and learn about this project. So we were really surprised to find, and Allison was too, on Friday when the agenda was made available, that this item, to adopt a resolution to stop this progress by DOT, we were really surprised that it was on the agenda, because we thought an agreement had been reached to give us time to meet with you and study it and see if we can come up with better ideas. It's great that we got new faces on this council and a new mayor. I always felt new faces bring new eyes, new ears, and new ideas. So again, it's a great thing to honor that agreement. Sit down, work through this. I think a lot of these new council members and old, ran on a campaign to further investigate and do due diligence before making a decision. And that's all we ask, a simple ask. Put this resolution on, table it until you have time to meet with DOT and see what can be done. I don't see where there's anything to lose. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. Last on the agenda this evening, we have Billy Watkins.
Good evening, Council.
Good
My
evening.
name is Billy Watkins. I live at 601 East Main Street, downtown Washington. I'm a little bit unprepared, and I'm not a public speaker, but I came to tell you, and I'm probably against a lot of other people in here, but I'm with Rich and Phillips, in that we need to take time to look at this plan, this state plan. Should not move on tonight. I was born and raised here in Washington. I traveled all of these streets walking and riding bicycles, and my parents were smart enough to tell me there were certain places to avoid. We're looking at this plan thinking that, you know, we need to make it safe for these people and those people. We're not looking at the numbers like we should. I'm all for safety. Like I said, my parents told me certain streets not to travel. 3rd Street, 5th Street, and Bridge Street. And that's the same now for 15th Street. When people are walking and traveling with bicycles, there are other ways to get there, and the state plan makes allowances for it. The state has already said that they would work with us on modifying this plan. Nobody seems to want to work with them. I will tell you that it's the most heavily traveled road in this city. I was just given information. Like I said, I'm kind of unprepared for this. But the DOT reports 17,000 cars passing right near Bonner Street and 15th Street, 19,500 between Summit Avenue and Respis, and 17,000 between Bennett Street and Carolina Avenue. That's a lot of traffic. Something needs to be done. But Washington has got a quaint little area right down here. We need a business district that people can come into town, get their business done, and get out. We don't need a quaint little two-lane road running through town where everybody's, nobody's going to be wandering around out there looking at the cars in the parking lot, because there's nothing to look at. It's a place to go do business. You go eat. You go to all the other businesses to shop and do whatever you need to do. And we really don't need the quaintness. We need to be able to get traffic through there. We need to be able to get people in and out to go to these businesses safely. And that's about all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you.
All right, that's all of the public comment for this evening. Next on the agenda will be comments from the mayor or city council. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, did you have any comments this evening?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor.
I yield the floor.
Due to the recent aspersions thrown, I feel the need to use a point of personal privilege. I'd like to address some issues brought forth by Mrs. Russell. She holds one of the only paid positions in the county as general manager of the ABC board. She actually makes twice as much money as a city councilman. Given that there are 45,000 citizens in this county to choose from, and she is the former city manager's wife, it's reasonable for the public to question whether this appointment reflects merit or political favor. It's reasonable to suspect cronyism and nepotism. As a paid county employee, she should be held to higher ethical standards. Publicly ridiculing citizens, local businesses, and investors does not meet that standard, and I expect her board will address its ethics policy accordingly. Her ongoing attacks and obloquy, accusations of stupidity, corruption, cronyism, personal insults that address the handwriting of individuals, the age of individuals, sexism. Her middle school burn book style TikTok appear driven by anger and retaliation. At their core, they stem from two things. First, I stated publicly during the campaign that I believed a change in city government was necessary. That belief was based solely on financial facts: debt quadrupling under the former city manager's tenure, payroll doubling, reserves depleted to cover operating costs, borrowing from minor expenses, and most significantly, the tax increase to cover operating costs. I did not enter public service for personal attention or social media clout. That does appear to be her domain. I did so because the cost of government had become unsustainable, and the former city manager, along with previous council, raised taxes to pay for government expansion. I was explicit about my position before the election because voters deserve transparency. This council cannot directly cut budgets or manage staff. We can only choose the city manager. The previous manager expanded government and raised taxes, not to mention that he personally campaigned against my platform. Public officials should say what they intend to do and do what they say. I did not want anyone surprised should I be elected. I announced my positions openly. It was time for change. The results made clear that the majority of this community shared those concerns. The insults directed at us are, in reality, insults directed at the voters. The second source of anger is that I was elected despite that announcement. The community agreed it was time for change. Immediately after the election, Mr. Russell began preparing his resignation. For the record, I am convinced there was not sufficient support on the newly elected council to remove him. I was initially impressed by Mr. Councilman Tyree during the campaign. He spoke convincingly about unity, ending division, and not governing from Facebook. Yet at our inauguration, I witnessed him publicly badger and attempt to humiliate the city attorney for minutes on end. It was not the substance of the questions, but the manner. That behavior contradicts his stated concern for treating employees with respect and undermines his call for unity. Public accusations of corruption belong here in the open, not on social media. This week, Mr. Tyree, after deriding the newly elected councilman for a few paragraphs, stated openly about Mr. Russell's departure. Congratulations are in order. Job well done. Your professionalism will be missed. And this leads to the central issue. Mr. Russell did not lose his job. He resigned. Had he resigned voluntarily, he would not have received severance. His severance could only be activated if he was fired or asked to resign by the sitting council. Following a closed session at the final meeting of the outgoing council, and I have not seen these minutes of that meeting, but we can surmise, based on his contract, that he was asked to resign. We can surmise this because he subsequently received a $140,000 severance, far more than the $50,000 originally negotiated in 2018, I might add. If he was a strong manager who would be missed, why did all 5 councilmen ask him to leave? I took the same oath of office that they did, and we all swore to do what was in the best interest of the city. Did they honestly believe that paying the city manager $140,000 to abruptly stop working and ask him to leave just before a new council and mayor took the helm, did they believe that was what was in the best interest of the city? Or did they believe that was what was in the best interest of a friend? I believe those 5 councilmen voted to give a friend $140,000 in taxpayer dollars. I do not believe they thought it was in the best interest of the city. I believe Mrs. Russell agrees with me. That's why she hasn't had a cross word for the 5 people who actually asked for her husband's resignation. As a private citizen, I said I thought the city management should be replaced. As his 5 bosses, they fired him. Why is she angry at me and not them? I believe that is the definition of cronyism, giving personal favors or privileges to friends. I believe that is the definition of corruption, the alteration or manipulation of something's intended use. Either his departure was in the city's best interest, or he will be missed. These 2 things cannot be true at the same time. The city is now under investigation by the state auditor for financial mismanagement during the prior administration. These decisions deserve scrutiny. I am unapologetic about what I ran for or why I was elected. I support reducing the size and cost of government, lowering taxes, improving efficiency, eliminating waste, and encouraging commercial and residential growth. Let the city grow while the government shrinks. I'd hoped to work with all the councilmen in accomplishing something great. But in 3 months, I've witnessed nothing but obstructionism and ridicule from the previous 2 councilmen. They haven't put forward a single item, not a single thing that they'd like to see accomplished. If obstructionism is the chosen path, so be it. I'd hope to work with you, but if you insist, we will work around you. Thank you.
Councilman Horton, do you have any comments under this line item this evening? Well, it's comments from the mayor or city council before we move into the next item. I'll ask each person individually.
To what he just said?
Doesn't-
Or to what?
Anything. Do you have any comments at this time that you would like to offer? Yes, no, you
Well,
don't have to.
Okay. For the record, I don't agree with all what was just said, but yeah.
Councilman Peralt, did you have any comments at this time?
I have one item I'd like to discuss. Last month, at the end of the month, Mayor Brabo and myself went to the League of Municipalities and School of Government Municipal Government Training in Wilmington. It's a bit of a mouthful to say. We were surrounded by other communities, city councils, city managers, city clerks, other officials that would be high up in their city governments. And we had 2 days worth of training on what it means to be a municipal government, what it means to work as a team, what it means to lead a city, balance the books, be ethical in the decision making. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me at that training was that our council is not a team. And it's disheartening and upsetting when you speak with other towns and cities councils and you speak with lobbyists from the School of Government and the League of Municipalities, and the first thing when you say, I'm from Washington, North Carolina, the next word out of their mouth is, oh, you have the issue with prayer. You have the really crazy election that just went down. Your community is really divided on Facebook. You know, that was not the intention of any of the 5 of us, I would hope. And I know that my intentions are making the best decisions for the city, just like the previous council did prior to us, and the next council will do as well. We're all citizens that live here and want the best for the city of Washington. So I have a very easy ask for our council, and that is that I would like to work together with everybody. I sat in a room with you, Councilmember Tyree, a month ago and asked you to work with me. You shook my hand. I asked you what items you cared about doing on our 2-year time period, and you said nothing to me. Over the weekend, there was an item on the agenda that I was worried would not get the support of full council, and I reached out to Councilmember Tyree and Councilmember Horton, and I was sent to voicemail. I was asking for support, I was asking for assistance, and I was asking for leadership in our city. And I'm not doing this as a personal attack that we've heard from multiple people tonight. I'm doing this from the standpoint of moving forward, we need to have better communication, we need to be a better team, and we need to be a better example for our city and for our citizens that elected us. And I think that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Councilman Tyree, did you have any comments at this time?
Yes, Mayor, I have a few things I wanted to bring up in council. First of all, thanks for that, Councilmember Perrault. Although, if I'm not mistaken, when we were running for office, any of those conversations were seen as non-transparent. So I just want to ensure that I'm abiding by the guidelines that were set forth by the majority that's sitting on the bench. Secondly, and I already had this prepared, so hopefully this doesn't be taken as something else, but either way. With 15th Street and seeing the documents that were put before us, even though they have been removed, but to hear that there were meetings that were had with the mayor and another council member, which is all legal meetings, absolutely. But I would like to ask this, and I'm going to need some assistance here from our legal professional tonight. I would like to ask that out of an abundance of caution to protect the integrity of the city proceedings, that Mayor Brabo and Mayor Pro Tem Fritz recuse themselves publicly from any conversations in reference to 15th Street. Mayor Brabo is currently a party to a pending quasi-judicial matter before the city's Board of Adjustment, as well as an active litigant involving related local governmental actions. Under North Carolina General Statute, and this is where I'm going to need you at, if I'm taking this in wrong or not, help me out here. But I like doing everything in open meeting now. It just makes it a lot smoother conversation, and everyone can be a part of that conversation. But General Statute 160D as in Delta, 109A as in Alpha, and D as in Delta. Elected officials must not participate in development regulation or quasi-judicial matters where an action may have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact, which you've provided that information for us before, in regards to finances. But when I looked at the previous email, I didn't see the rest of the passage. Or where participation could compromise the constitutional requirement of an impartial decision maker. Additionally, Mayor Pro Tem Fritz has publicly disclosed a business interest that may be directly affected by the outcome of the NCDOT project. Specifically, a business located at 719 West 15th Street in Washington, North Carolina. North Carolina General Statute 168 Alpha 75 further requires non-participation when an official's personal interests or conduct are implicated. The mayor has also stated in public meetings that the project may negatively impact her claimed living address at that time of 111 Jackson Street. Deferring this item or proceeding with appropriate recusals ensures compliance with statutory requirements and preserves due process for all parties. Attorney Holscher, have I misread or misinterpreted any of the statutes?
I don't have those statutes in front of me. I'm sure that you read them verbatim. As far as your interpretation, that's not for me to comment on.
What would be your suggestion to keep the city out of any legal situations that may arise?
At this time, in this environment, I don't have suggestion that arises from your comments.
When
I
you
don't
say in
think-
this environment, what do you mean?
This public environment, and I don't think it's my place to make a decision between what your position is regarding the mayor and another council person, or what their position may be about you. I don't think that's the place of the city attorney, and I think it's not the type of place that you should put me.
I'm not asking you to take that on in that part. I'm asking you to speak to the statute.
I
You know,
think I'm
the
sure you
legal
read
part
it
of it.
correctly.
I'm not the attorney in the room. I'm just quoting the statute. So I'm looking at the legal professional to assist me and to help our city and this bench stay out of any gray areas if possible, based on statute, not based on me quoting statute, but based on the actual statute.
I'm
Can you
uncomfortable-
assist with that?
I'm uncomfortable giving advice to the full council concerning your singular question. I'm happy to do that privately or in closed session if the full council wants to look into that. I'm happy to do more research to look into it, but I personally don't have any knowledge of a reason for either the mayor or Councilman Fritz to be recused.
Point of order, because we don't have any knowledge of any of that, and why you continue to speak towards it. We're either going to talk it all the way out, or we're going to pause. But you giving your opinion now actually lends to you giving your opinion, your personal opinion, when I'm asking about your legal piece. When you're coming back stating, well, you know what? My question is this part of what you were explaining before, that you will continue to dodge questions unless the entire council wants you to answer them?
I don't think it's appropriate for you and I to have this back and forth. I'm not sure what you're referring to right this second.
Okay. I'll move on. Last thing, Mayor Brabo, recently there was an article produced, and there were some quotes in that article, a reference to the city of Washington wanting you to move back from your current position in lawsuit versus being mayor. When you say the city of Washington, will you be willing to clarify if that's city council that is applying pressure to you? And I'm asking that because as sitting council now and previously, that could almost seem as if myself or any other council members trying to apply pressure inappropriately. And if you don't want to speak to it directly, that's fine. Would you be willing to let the public know who has not spoken to you about any of the above, any lawsuit or anything else, without it seeming like the city here is trying to pressure you into dropping your lawsuit?
Councilman Tyree, could you let me know what article you are referring to? I have not participated in any interviews related to my lawsuit since it was filed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you back?
Councilman Davis, did you have any comments at this time?
Yeah, I'll be real quick. Dr. Gorham, she started the night off praying for unity and peace, and Max over there kind of relayed that same message to an extent. So I know I'm probably just as maybe the primary. I'm sure some of you might agree. I'm the primary target for a lot of this. I'm quick. Sometimes I'm not slow to speak, and I'm quick to anger. But I just pray that heart posture that she exhibited in her prayer to the throne room will someday encompass this city, this council, and that in one of my favorite verses I tried to memorize this year was Psalm 127:1. Unless the Lord builds this house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. So that's only possible through a higher power, because there's peace. You can only have peace with God. But I hope that spiritual warfare and that warring that we're constantly under in this city, that'll one day will will move together and in unity and for a common goal to help this whole community, because I really do believe that everyone has great aspirations, and how we get there is one thing, but I think we're going to get there, and I'm just going to trust in God that we do. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, I'll yield the floor, Councilman Horton.
Real quick. You guys are, these are great speeches. They are really great speeches for the community to hear about unity and teams and can we all work together. Very good. However, my mind reflects back during the campaigning season where names was slandered on Facebook. Character, I'll speak for myself. I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I don't have to use the Bible to make me feel like who I am, because I know my stance. However, when you speak of the word unity and teams, we definitely don't have it here, because of the simple fact we're one way here, but as soon as things go left or how we don't feel like it should go, when we get outside those doors, we call in WITN, every news reporter and all of this stuff, and just calling out names that we shouldn't do. So it's okay for us to agree to disagree. However, it's a respect line, and we can take it too far to the left. So I think you guys need to just reflect on the campaigning season and then think in your mind of, maybe I should go back and at least say, well, maybe I didn't say this correctly. I should have said it a different way. Because at the end of the day, we all have feelings. We all have emotions. And that was a rough time. It was a very rough time. So in order for us to move forward together as a unit, not saying that we're going to agree always, however, we can do a better job at doing it, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Horton. At this time, there are no public hearings scheduled or public appearances scheduled. Mr. Robertson, before we move into correspondence and special reports, can we take a brief recess for a bathroom break? Okay, we're recessed for 5 minutes. All right, call this meeting back to order. There has been a few questions during the recess in regards to maybe some discrepancies between the agendas that were provided in the back and the copies of the agenda that the council has. So for those of you who, just to clarify, the items that were removed from this evening's agenda in the amendments at the start of the meeting were the presentation for funding for outside agencies, items for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant were combined together into one action, and the 15th Street resolution was removed from this evening's agenda. At this time, we'll move into correspondence and special reports. Mr. Robertson, I'll turn it over to you.
I'll have, if there's any questions on the correspondence we have, the POs, purchase orders of 50,000, the budget transfer, the Burn Jag grant application, and the July 4th fireworks. We'll be happy to answer any questions that the council might have on those.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Robertson on any of these items? All right, here, no questions, Mr. Robertson.
The next one is reports from boards and commissions and committees. There's none. And appointments of the NIMPA Board of Commissioners, page 37.
All right, so for the NICEMPA Board of Commissioners, council, do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Councilmember Anthony Tyree with a first alternate of Shane Lewis and a second alternate of Kenny McConville for the NICEMPA Board of Commissioners.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, is there any discussion on this item?
Where'd I come from on that?
What was the question?
Councilman Tyree would like to know, where did that come from?
Well, you're one of our more seasoned board members. You're an incumbent. You have more knowledge of the city, and you'd be a better representative on a board that has, you know, a lot of oversight into our electrical department. It just seemed like the most correct and responsible choice of the city.
Is there any other discussion?
Do you not want to represent the city?
Thanks for that question. I want to pull myself back from this appointment. Thanks for that. Thank you.
We do have a motion on the floor at this time, and so we would have to conduct a vote. So unless there's any more discussion, we will move to a vote. Is there any more discussion?
You don't want that? Okay.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Okay. The motion will not pass. Council does have to make an appointment to this board this evening. So I did not receive any response from any council members saying yes to this position. Our first and second alternates are confirmed with our electric director.
I'll do the appointment if necessary. I don't mind. I mean, if somebody else wants it, I'm more than happy to put it out, but I necessarily don't mind, Madam Mayor.
I'd like to make a motion that Mayor Pro Tem Nick Fritz fills his position.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Motion carries. Could I get council to please make a motion on the first and second alternates? Because we are also expected to make those appointments this evening.
First alternate would be Shane Lewis. Second alternate would be Kenny McConville.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Okay, motion carries. All right. Now we will move into old business. Assistant City Manager job description, salary range, and budget ordinance amendment. Mr. Robertson?
Thank you, Mayor. The city council actually asked the Human Resource Director and myself to prepare an assistant city manager job description, a salary range, and a budget ordinance amendment, along with the newspaper advertisement. And we concluded that, so it's up to council to either appoint the city manager, assistant city manager, table it, or approve it.
Did you have a recommendation for council at this time?
Well, I do have a recommendation. Typically, I'm going to do exactly what the city council asked me to do, but the timing, I think, is questionable, but I'm going to just, whatever the council wants on this job description, I'll be glad to do.
Is there a motion? All right, I need either a motion to approve
I
or
make a
table.
motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor to approve the Assistant City Manager job description, salary range, and budget ordinance amendment, please say aye and raise your hand.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
What is your point of order, Councilman Tyree?
There's a motion and a second. There's no discussion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, there is a discussion. We'll move to discussion at this time. Councilman Davis, since you made the motion, did you have any comments on this item? Does anyone else have any comments? Councilman
I did,
Tyree?
yeah. I thought when we spoke about this, we were saying that the actual manager would create the assistant manager position. Once we got a manager in, that manager would then assess and go along with creating the assistant.
Yeah, that's my question too. That's what we discussed at our previous council meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Fritz?
I believe what's on the floor right now is the creation of that position and the budgeting so that applications can be pulled. Is that correct?
Yes, it's for the official job description, approving that, the salary range that was provided from HR, as well as the budget ordinance amendment, yes, so then the job posting could be made.
I think the creation of this position is important. Mr. Robertson can fill or not fill any of these positions at his pleasure. Not speaking for him, I think he has no intention, honestly, of filling this. We're creating it and allowing these applications to come in. I think we're all in a position that we're pretty actively looking for that city manager. I think some of these applications may even double in that regard. But I think that was the intention of this agenda item.
Councilman Peralt, did you have any comments? Councilman Horton?
So is this in our current budget? The salary, is it in our current budget now?
I don't, because it requires a budget ordinance amendment, it would not be currently budgeted for.
No. The money is not in the budget. It's coming out of fund balance. And the amount that you have here is only to fund it from March until June 30th.
Councilman Tyree?
So again, my question would be, why are we doing it now? And we're coming up on budget cycle. If there's no intention on a rush to fill it, I think we should focus our energy on getting a manager, like a full-time manager, as Mr. Robinson is our interim. So interim, he's just here to kind of keep us in line with things and keep things functioning and moving. But I feel like something such as creating that position now and having to re-budget when we've been told, I mean, even though we understand the facts now, the city is not broke, but if we don't have any money, then why are we looking to then again do something else with our fund balance? Why aren't we just waiting until we get to actual budget season and see what needs to be created at that point?
Thank you, Councilman Tyree. Are there any other dissenting opinions at this time? No. All All right, at this time, we do have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand.
No.
Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to authorize the city manager to enter into a farm lease agreement with Arnold Farms Incorporated containing 55 acres. Mr. Robertson, I yield the floor to you.
Franz, you mind touching base with that?
These are two leases, one for 55 acres, one for 60 acres, and what's, I believe is being called the Airport Industrial Park. And these are the exact same leases that we had with this farmer last year, except the dates have basically changed, and we are also authorized to withdraw any acreage from either one of these leases that we need to withdraw in the event we want to make any type of improvements to those properties.
Thank you, Mr. Holscher. Is there a motion from council?
I'll make the motion. Yes, ma'am.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this item? Councilman Tyree, I yield the floor.
Just for clarification, Attorney Holscher, you said that this was the same lease that we went into last year? Correct. Okay.
I didn't pull it. Excuse me, Madam Mayor. This is a one-year lease? I'm sorry. We're signing this for one more year?
Yes, sir. It's a one-year lease. It avoids the city having to maintain whatever 55 plus 60 acres is, and you actually get a little revenue. And they also takes care of some of the property adjacent to the farmland, so it's beneficial for city staff maintenance.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Davis?
are there any other uses that this property could be used for in the future?
Point of order, I think the motion on the table is about going into the lease, not
Land
other
use,
usage.
yeah, the motion on the, point well taken.
I'm sure hypothetically there are other uses that this property could be.
Mr. Holscher, we don't have to answer the question. Thank you, though, appreciate it. Is there any other discussion on this item about approving the lease agreement? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, none, motion carries. We also have a farm lease agreement with Arnold Farms for 60 acres in Old Business. So could I get a motion on that one as well, please?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion? All right.
Just for clarification, this is the same lease that we went into last year, right? No changes on anything? Okay.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All right. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right. At this time, we will move into new business. First up in new business is to award engineering services contract for the Washington Warren Airport to Talbert, Bright, and Ellington. Mr. Holsch or Mr. Robertson, do you have any background on this item for council this evening?
Yeah. We're ready to go when we have the airport manager as well.
I do have a quick clarifying question in regards to the contract. On page 128 of our council agenda, the first page of the contract, it says, whereas the owner desires to engage a qualified and experienced engineer to perform professional engineering services for a period of 5, it doesn't specify 5 what, 5 months, 5 years, 5 days. If you could just clarify for us, Mr. Holscher. It's about halfway down the page, third paragraph.
You said page 128?
Correct. It's the first page of the actual contract in our copy.
As a matter of fact, I put a note for myself that we needed to, I assume that means 5 years. I assume that Josh would know what that is. I think that historically, we usually enter into an agreement for about a 5-year period with Talbot and Bright. And I do know that they've done the city's work at the airport for quite some time, and as far as I know, they've always done a really good job. There may be another typo or two in there, but yes, I think that the word years is lacking from that paragraph.
Okay. I would just ask that council ensure that the motion includes the amendment to the contract to reflect the correction.
Is that right, Josh?
Yes, that's correct.
At this time, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve
With the amendment?
with the amendment that the time frame is added as well.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this item? Councilman Peralt, did you have any further discussion?
I just have one question. What is the cost of the contract to the city? It's not listed.
So to the city, for this contract, there is no cost. We are required by the FAA and the DOA to have a certified engineer on record, and we are required to renew that contract every 5 years. But there is not a direct incurred cost to this contract. That just helps the FAA and the DOA to know that we have somebody that is certified and able and capable of doing the work for any grants that they give us in the future.
If we use them for a project that is from grant funding, is it based on an hourly rate? Is it based on a project scope? How is the expense to the city normally calculated?
It's typically based on the project scope itself.
Okay. And were there other bids that came in for this?
There were.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Does council have any other discussion? Councilman Tyree?
Mr. Waters, can I have a question?
Yes.
You said that there's no cost to the city, correct?
Not for the contract itself, no.
When is cost accrued?
I'm sorry, say that again?
At what point does it cost the city?
As we use their services.
They have to bring you a work authorization and ask and get permission to do that work, and there'll be an amount with that work.
So that work authorization, that comes to you and then you present it to council?
Yes, or they send us a scope of work with all the pricing in it. We then will present that project to council for approval, and then the airport itself will just handle any amendments and stuff that have no financial changes while still bringing, I think we actually have one a little bit further down on this one for an amendment to a project, and then no financial changes or anything like that. But anytime they do charge us money, that's brought to you guys for approval.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. All right, at this time, motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to approve a grant ordinance amendment for airfield drainage improvements, Phase 2. Mr. Robertson, is there any background on this item?
We're here to answer any questions. Josh, why don't you step up?
All right.
So, this ordinance here, we had a project to redo the airfield drainage. As many people know, the airfield was built in the 1940s, and a lot of the drainage was too. We had a state-funded grant that covered 100% of that. There was no cost to the city for engineering, planning, or the project at all. When that project ended, we had a little bit of money left, and it was kind of one of those, we either used it or we lost the money and it just went back to the state. We went around and we found a few other projects that the state DOT and our representative with them said would fall under a drainage project. They approved it, and we are looking to move forward with ST Wooten on fixing a few other issues that will be at no cost to us or the city.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Council, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right. Is there any discussion on this item? Councilman Tyree, you made the motion. Do you have any other discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Hearing none, motion carries. The next item is to authorize the mayor to execute the engineering agreement with Rivers and Associates for the Jack Creek Pump Station Automated Screen Project. Ms. Woolard, would you mind coming forward for some background?
Yes, ma'am. The city accepted funding on August of 2024 for the screen project from the Local Assistance for Stormwater Infrastructure Investments, the LASSI funding program. This will cover 100% of the eligible design cost up to the awarded amount of $365,000. And then there's a little description. The design will include 2 automated bar screens at the pump station to help mitigate the current flooding issues occurring during the drainage basin and to alleviate safety concerns for city personnel. The screens can operate continuously without the need for personnel to be on site during storm events. This will improve the ability of the pump station to operate more efficiently, reducing the potential for blinding of the existing manual bar screens and damaging the pumps. Do y'all have any other questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Woolard. Does council have any questions for Ms. Woolard? Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those, or is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, motion carries. We will now move into, we have combined both of the T-Mobile Hometown Grant project presentations. So first this evening, we will have Mr. Domini. He will be presenting a proposal for financial assistance for the Downtown Streetscape Improvement Project Phase 2.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to request authorization to apply for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant to go towards the Streetscape Phase 2. So the project Phase 2 will extend the improvements that we made on Main Street to Market Street from about Stewart Parkway up to 2nd Street, continuing the transformation of our downtown. The total project estimate is about $1.5 million to make those renovations or improvements. Phase 1 is generally seen as a success. We started in 2020. It was kind of an ideal situation where we had COVID. Yes, it was a bad thing that happened to the country, but we kind of utilized that time to redo Main Street. The project was completed in about 2020, and it was very well reviewed. So we'll be doing generally the same things, improving the sidewalks, new benches, new landscaping along the Market Street to kind of look like Main Street. For what we currently have, we've already submitted an application for $850,000 through the Rural Downtown Economic Development Grant. We'll be notified approximately mid to late February on whether or not we're awarded those funds. There is a 5% match for that grant, and even with that 5% grant, there's approximately a $630,000 difference that we'd still have to make up. And the T-Mobile Hometown Grant would provide $50,000 for community improvement project. It provides $50,000 towards community improvement projects and would help bridge that gap to reach the rest of those funds. So again, this T-Mobile grant is up to $50,000 for projects to strengthen the communities. The application would benefit from council support. That's why I'm here in front of you tonight. And then the application is due by the end of March. So that's kind of when the amount of time that we have to submit that application. So right now, our next steps tonight, looking for council's authorization to apply for the T-Mobile grant to go towards the Phase 2 of the Streetscape Improvement Grant. Council support letter, if we could have that by end of February, that would help. Then we'd submit the application by the end of March. Or short-term goals would be to get the rural downtown grant notification, figure out whether or not we have those funds to apply to this project, and finalize the complete funding package. And then further down the road, we'd have to prepare engineering and construction bid requests to figure out who's going to be doing the work, probably late spring, early summer, to then start working on the project. Okay? So that's all I have for this presentation. I'll let Christy present her section.
Thank you, Dominique. And I will just clarify to council, for those who might not be familiar with this grant, the municipality can only submit one application per quarter. Is that, I have that correct, per quarter? So Dominique and Christy are both presenting their presentations, and then council will have to determine which department can move forward with the application for this quarter. That doesn't prevent council then from approving that for the next quarter. All right, Christy, thank you.
So basically, what Dominique mentioned to you in his presentation applies to exactly what we're looking at. This is actually a project that we do have in our capital improvement plan that would, the area that's right beside the Bobby Andrews Center and the skate park, we anticipate and have projected the cost of completing a practice soccer field for, basically for adults, but it could be used for anybody, of course. But we don't have a soccer field that we can utilize other than the McConnell Complex. And when youth sports are taking place at the McConnell Complex, the grass gets damaged very quickly. It does have to have time to regrow. So we don't, and unfortunately, that is our practice and our playing fields, whereas before we did have access to Eastern Elementary School to do that for practice fields. But this would be an opportunity to allow specifically adults that are seeking opportunities to play. As Dominique said, we can only, it's a $50,000 grant that would cover the entire project as what we have estimated. There is only one opportunity for one of us to apply, and he helped me with the map, so I don't think either one of us will be disappointed regardless of which way you choose. Questions?
Thank you, Christy. Does council have any questions for Christy? And then we'll ask Dominique to come back up for questions for him.
Madam Mayor, I have two questions.
Councilman Peralt.
I just have two main questions. Just because of the location of the field, is the plan to have the field be enclosed by a fence or a barrier or anything to make sure that, I mean, a ball doesn't run on the street?
So inside the red markings, you'll see the dotted lines on the left-hand side that go against
The creek?
Yes. There will be a fencing there, and there will also be fencing placed along Johnsonville Avenue as well to keep the balls in that area.
Okay, and that fencing would connect to the basketball courts?
Correct.
Okay.
That fence was actually taken down just because it was damaged. There was a lot of rusting in it, and with the basketball courts there, we didn't need it to go all the way down, so we removed it. We knew that at some point in time we were going to have to replace it.
Okay, and then the second question is at the dirt pathway leading out on that red line towards the field, is that going to be, I guess, paved over, or is it going to be turned into an actual path, or is it going to be kept the same?
As of right now, this project would not address that. We would
Okay.
use the parking that's around the Bobby Andrews Center, the street parking. That would be something we would look at for the future, but not for this granting piece.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from council?
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Davis?
My soccer career ended in the 7th grade with Vinny, but this proposed field, is this a full size, is that just a full size?
Correct. It would be a full-size adult field. I believe it's 150 by 300, yeah, 150 feet by
150.
300. We could make like 3 small fields, a small field and a medium-sized field, but the request has specifically been for adults, so we didn't really want to do anything on a smaller scale. Kids could bring out portable goals if they wanted to play smaller, but keeping it as an adult-sized field.
Is it, I guess if we have enough money, is it possible to do, I see there's some space next to the basketball courts. Is it possible to do a kid-sized soccer field under there, or would that put you too tight to the basketball courts?
I honestly do not know what the area is for right there and how big it would need to be. If so, yeah, absolutely. What they're
Okay.
going to do is they're going to go in and till up the area. It's basically like this the whole way across. So once we get the area flattened out and graded and resprigged, then if the room is there, absolutely. We've got goals that we could put out there as well.
Any other questions from council for Christie? All right. Dominique, do you mind coming back up in case council has some questions? Does council have any questions for Dominique about his presentation? No?
Madam Mayor, I have one question.
Councilman Prolt?
I can't remember the exact numbers. You said that there's a current grant that would cover around 850,000 of the project, but there would be a 5% match, and then there would still be about 600,000 left over.
Yeah, for that grant, the match is minimum of 5%.
Okay.
So right now, if we were to cover whatever is left, we more than meet that 5%.
Okay. And is there any way for a second grant to cover the other 600,000 that would be left over from it?
Yes, and we're constantly looking.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, did you have questions? No. Council, any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Dominique. All right, council, do I have a motion for,
Look-
oh, Councilman Tyree?
I would just say, thank you both for presenting, but I will give council some historical information here when it comes to the soccer fields. HRC a few years ago was approached by some members in the community that was asking for safe places to play soccer. A lot of the school fields and things of that nature denied it based on liability. So they were just kind of playing wherever they could. And then some of the landowners no longer wanted people playing soccer on their land. So they came to the city to see, not to ask for a field, but to see where it would be safe to play in the city. So HRC kind of took that on. This was maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. So
Thank you, Councilman Tyree. Do I have a motion from council?
I'd like to make a motion to grant approval for the Recreation Department to develop an adult soccer practice field near the Bobby Andrews Recreation Facility through applying for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item?
I just want to say that I agree with what Councilmember Tyree said. It's important to keep giving back to the community with the recreation facilities.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. All right, next item is to authorize staff to proceed with eliminating Witchers Beach from the City of Washington's ETJ. Mr. Robertson?
Thank you, Mayor. Originally, standards and service annexation procedures were allowed underneath the General Assembly, and what we could do is it was actually that cities in North Carolina could annex property without the vote of the people. So subsequently, the General Assembly has now changed that, and we, meaning cities, there was a bill introduced last year to do entirely away with the ETJ. So in anticipation of that, we've looked at the areas, and we want to take care of the city of Washington, and there's no advantageous reason for us to have Witchers Beach inside of our jurisdiction. So we're going to recommend to take a look at it and come forward. There's a process that we have to follow. We have to notify the county. Then there's a 60-day turnaround time. So it's a long process, but it's our advantage, in my opinion, that we eliminate Witchers Beach out of our jurisdiction.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Robertson?
I do.
Councilman Tyree?
Have you spoken to the people who live in Witchers Beach?
No, sir, I haven't.
So wouldn't this be something that we want to hear from that community before we make a decision without them being present?
Well, may I answer that question?
That's for council, I'm sorry. I mean, just an idea of before we make a decision for a community, we would want to hear from the community first.
Thank you, Councilman Tyree. You're good? Okay. Council have any other questions for Mr. Robertson? Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz?
Thank you. So the bill we're voting on eliminates the ETJ at Witchers Beach as of tonight. Is that what we're voting on, or are we just giving authorization to begin
Take
that
a look.
process?
Yes.
Will this come back to where we
Well, we're required to give public notice to everybody that's in there. So we have to run the tax cards and send that to every property owner that's inside the area before we de-annex. In addition to that, we have to notify the county, and even after that, there's a 60-day period in which that we have to honor all the permits and notify the property owners. That's according to the statutes.
Thank you.
But I think there's a, one second, I lost it. I think for me, there's confusion when it says staff to proceed with eliminating versus staff to proceed with the gathering of information. Again, speaking to the individuals that live there and having them come before council and give us their opinion on what we're making a decision on when it comes to their community. Compared to the decision to eliminate it now, and then they have to fight the decision that we made tonight. So,
I would agree to that, Councilman, but there's no advantage for the city.
is there any historical data that would show me that there's no advantage to the city versus hearing from the community themselves coming before council to explain what they may or may not want?
Fine.
No. Is there any historical data that you can present to council to back up what you said, that there is no advantage to the city itself without hearing from the community?
I'll do whatever you guys want to do. You asked me to come up with recommendations about how to cut the budget. This is one way that you can cut the budget. There's no way that the city of Washington breaks even by sending our inspections over to Witchers Beach.
So I think we just heard quite a bit about our budget tonight. So without going back into that and rehashing it, is there any data that you can present to council to show that this is of no advantage to the city, like this hurts the city, outside of your opinion?
My opinion is we don't collect anything, but I'll be glad to get you the facts.
Thank you.
Councilman Davis?
Mr. Robertson, what's the history of us having the Witchers, do you know the history of us having Witchers Beach in the ETJ, how long it's been, and any background with that? I know you've been in this a while.
Well, the first problem that we have is the county itself is limited with the number of land use controls that they have. They don't have any zoning ordinance. They're limited with their subdivision, and so it's a very difficult area to regulate. And what happens is, particularly Witchers Beach, I'm not saying everybody does this, but it's happened on numerous occasions. They come in, they have to elevate their modular unit or double wide or whatever the house is, and as soon as it's up 10, 11 feet, 6 or 7 months after they do the elevation, they come in and they say that they want, not all of them, but they'll come in and say, I want to turn this into a game room. And as soon as the game room is finished, then they convert the area back to a bedroom. And when the flood comes and the bedroom gets flooded out, guess what they do? They turn it in to get rebated for the flood damage that's inside of inappropriate use. So the federal government comes down, they go around and look at every one of them, and they look over at Witchers Beach and say, okay, you're in violation of the flood rules. The city of Washington, because it's in your jurisdiction, you need to tell these people to get in compliance with the zoning ordinance and the FEMA regulations. And therefore, we spend a tremendous amount of time enforcing regulations outside the corporate limits of the city.
Those are quite heavy accusations there of what the people in Witchers Beach are doing. So again, I would ask that, because you said that you've seen this, and you've been interim now for a few months, so since you've seen it, there should be some data that you can present to us so we can make a factual decision before we're targeting individuals without their voice being heard based on what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't have all the documentation, but when I was planning community development director, we took down 60 units over on Jacks Creek. So I'm familiar with how to do it, what needs to be done.
So at one point in, I guess, Washington history, Witchers Beach came to the city and said, we want to be under your zoning laws, and the city was like, okay, or is that?
To the best of my knowledge, nobody in Witchers Beach has ever come to the city council and said they want to be in our jurisdiction.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot during the campaign of people wanting to get out of the ETJ rather than stay in it.
No.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Robertson? Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize staff to proceed with eliminating Witchers Beach? Franz, am I correct that if there's no motion, it just dies? Okay, next item on our agenda. Discussion for CIP review. Mr. Robertson?
Thank you, Mayor. That's just a matter of information for any member of the council. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to take a look at it. It's the wish list. There's no action taken. It's a matter of information for the members of the council.
And we will review this in our budget workshop process, correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Council, are we good to move on to the next item?
I have a question.
Councilman Peralt?
Mr. Robertson, when you were the former city manager, when the CIP would come through, there's a couple of items on here that I just highlighted that, let's just take fire and EMS, for instance. Their 2026, 2027 request is a little bit over $16 million from the city for funding. Our full-time and part-time grant writer that we have on staff, have any of these items ever gone before them in the past to see if there's grant funding available, or has the request always started with council action?
Yes, we can produce that. We have a grants person on staff that modifies that. We'll be glad. I think the mayor has seen all the grants, so we look at grants all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions from council on this item before we move forward? Okay.
I think in response to Councilmember Peralt, if I was hearing you correctly, every grant historically didn't come before council. They would find it first, and if it fit the city or if there was an opportunity, then it would come before council to say, hey, there's an opportunity here if you want to move forward with it or what have you. But it didn't have to be like checked first.
I think I was a little misunderstood in what I said. What I was asking was some of these line items are in the millions of dollars. I'm trying to see if when the CIP process happens and you come up with this rough list that we have, if this is sent to any of our personnel that deal in grants to see if there's anything that qualifies that could possibly be applied for before presenting to council. Not council saying, we don't agree with that, you need to go find a grant.
All right. Next item is to set the property tax rate.
Mayor, on that one, my advice is for the council, because the actual tax rate is part of the budget process, and if the council wants to recommend a tax rate for us, we'd be more than happy to consider it, but establishing the tax rate is premature, and I would yield to Tammy and our city attorney on that, but that's the way the general statutes are written. But you can certainly make any recommendation you want to about what you want the staff to shoot for on the taxes. You can do that. What I have told the staff thus far is we're going back 2 years looking at baseline on the budget. In addition to that, the information I had is you want to reduce it to 28.6%, which was the current tax rate increase in this year. That's the instructions that I was given, and I pass that over to the current staff.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, did you have any other discussion points on this?
I was going to make the motion that we make this recommendation. I make a motion that we make a recommendation on the property tax rate.
Point of order.
What is your point of order, Councilman Tyree?
There's no action set on the agenda.
Mr. Holscher, does action have to be set forth on the agenda for council to take action if a motion is on the floor?
You don't have to have a physical action item in your agenda to take action.
Thank you. Point not taken. He said that you do not have to have an action item on the agenda in order to have action taken.
So wouldn't that require a vote from council then? Like, not just your regular majority to add an action to the already set agenda?
I really don't want to argue about it. This is an item on your agenda that says set property tax rate. And I believe that someone can make a motion in that general area that is identified in your agenda. I heard what Bobby said about it would be premature to, this is unsolicited, but premature to set a property tax rate because there's certain statutory procedures that you have to follow in order to do that in the middle of the year. But I think what might be
And I believe the motion we have on the floor is to recommend the property tax rate. Did you want to be more specific with that, Mayor Pro Tem Fritz?
I got it.
Sure, Mr. Robertson is saying he had direction. I wasn't sure that he actually had that direction from council, and I just wanted to say I wanted to make a motion from us publicly that I want to target that specific rate. I know this is a budget season. I'd hate for all the folks to get too far into it without a bit of direction from council, since we are making a decision that would affect the budget.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
I didn't hear a tax rate. I didn't hear a number that you're looking for before we make a vote on just
Sure.
general.
Mhm.
The motion is to target the revenue neutral rate from last year of 0.3775. And again, that's the general target that I'd like you guys to be aiming for, so when you present the budget, I'm hoping we're close to that number.
We'll do the best we can if we're going to revenue neutral, but we'll definitely do the best we can.
And you said second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Councilman Tyree?
I think it would be a little bit more responsible to let the subject matter experts let us know where we are with the options that we have on the different rates to get us wherever that we need to be.
Sure.
Rather than us prematurely setting something here to actually have the ability to allow the professionals to let us know. I ran for office, that didn't make me a money expert, right? So we have money experts here, numbers experts. So historically, correct me if I'm wrong, we get different options on what different rates look like.
Right.
And what is to be spent, and how it will be spent, and what kind of room we may have, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think the final end of the budget process, there'll be 3 columns. One is from the staff, one is from the manager, and one is from you folks. So you'll have the opportunity, if you don't like what we've got in there, you can amend it and move forward. And that's why you got elected.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Is there any other comment from discussion on this item from council?
Madam Mayor, I have a comment.
Councilman Peralt?
This week alone, I had a couple people from the community reach out to me about the tax rate issues that we have in Washington. There were several individuals that asked about how to appeal, their tax rates and what the city could do to help them. Mr. Robertson has helped me with that. But most recently, we've kind of felt it more on a personal level. My mother is a resident of the city of Washington. Her tax rate, just like everybody else's, was increased when the city chose not to pursue a revenue neutral rate in the past fiscal year. Because of this, she is now coming to me asking if we should, rent out a 3rd bedroom to a stranger in our house. I have to imagine that there's more people in our city battling with the same decisions. And I think the responsible thing for our council to do, given the fact that we were elected by a majority on the issue of taxes, for everybody feeling that burden. There's people sitting in the pews tonight that are selling their homes because of the tax rate increase. We're losing members of our community. So I feel like giving this direction early to our city manager, to our finance director, to our department heads is a responsible thing for council to do at this point. Therefore, they can have the most time available to them to come up with that budget and to find leeway if needed.
Thank you, Councilman Peralt. Does anyone else on council have any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand.
No.
The motion on the floor was the recommendation for the revenue neutral rate of 0.37 being the recommended property tax rate proposed in the budget for this budget cycle.
So is that something that would need to be voted on, or would you provide that in one of those 3 columns like you would historically do?
Council, we'll do it any way you want to do it.
This is giving the recommendation to staff so that the manager can move forward with that formally.
So again, when you present the different rates, historically, you present different rates, one that council may want, or you can present 6 different ones.
Point of
But
order.
Councilman Fritz, what is your point of order?
There's a motion and a vote on the floor. I believe the discussion period was over.
Point well taken.
There's a motion in a second, and then what happened?
And then was a vote on the floor.
There's a motion in a second, and then what happened? Motion second, and then what happens?
Discussion, but we already have a vote on the floor, and the ayes have already voted, and then the call was for the votes for no.
So you skip discussion?
We already had discussion, and there was
Okay.
no further discussion.
Very good.
All those who are opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Councilman Tyree has not voted. Okay. So motion carries. We're moving forward. Next item on our agenda is to authorize the Washington Electric Utilities Advisory Board to report on how to become an independent utilities commission. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, I'll yield the floor to you.
Again, this is a motion providing direction. I'm making a motion authorizing the city manager and whatever staff is necessary to gather information to report back to us on steps that might be taken, benefits and drawbacks to the Washington Utilities becoming an independent authority.
Is there a second?
I make the second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this item?
Is this a data gathering thing, or are we moving forward with the?
Data gathering, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
Being as this is just giving some direction, if you wouldn't mind working with the Utilities Advisory Board and anyone else you feel is necessary, the interim department heads, and just present back to us in 30 days progress that's had at our next scheduled meeting. That's what I'm looking for here, just basically advice and direction from those who are most familiar with this sort of thing.
I would ask if, a favor from the council, if you can get me some folks to serve on that board, that would be great.
I think the Utilities Advisory Board already exists. Are you saying it has some vacancies?
We do have vacancies.
How many vacancies?
I think 4, off the top of my head.
Let's get those with Cynthia, and we can coordinate a release with Aaron for the BIO.
Council President, don't worry about them. I can get you the report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have any other discussion on this item? Councilman Peralt?
Does the city not currently have the required members to make a quorum on the advisory board?
Councilman Peralt, that is not the discussion item. I don't want to digress.
Even though we were just in the middle of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to, okay. Is there any other discussion about authorizing the Washington Electric Utilities Advisory Board to report on how to become an independent utilities commission?
I think based on what was just said by our city manager, the conversation is valid to see if we have the personnel to assist in doing what we want to appoint. So
A quorum is not necessary for a board to make advisement and work with staff, or for Mr. Robertson to move forward with discussing with our interim electric director on how to begin information gathering.
is that based on your information or based on the manager? Because he brought it up that he wanted council to help put people on the board or get him the people or name the people to assist in making this happen. So that's how this whole conversation came up. So now all of a sudden we don't need that. Which one is it? Do we need it or do we not?
I always run every report by an advisory board if in fact one exists. So anything that I would bring forward would come through the Electric Advisory Commission.
Right. So the only way that you would be able to do that is if they can have an official meeting, which means they would make quorum or not?
I don't think they have to have a quorum to furnish the report, to move the report up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Council-
I'd just like to add, this is all in that direction. I feel like the Washington Utilities is a little bit shaky, and I'm hoping that we can move things in that direction. So this is all sort of just motivating the city staff to get stuff going in that direction. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no and raise your hand. Okay, motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to authorize staff to review software for public records law compliance. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz, I'll yield the floor to you.
I make a motion that we ask Mr. Robertson and any necessary staff to prepare a report and recommendation on how to improve our software and practices for public records law compliance.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion on this item? Mayor Pro Tem Fritz?
Again, this is just asking the staff to come back to the council and give us some options. Having observed a few boards, I know that the note-taking, the video-taking, and these sorts of things are, I think, out of compliance. I'd like Mr. Robertson to work with IT, to work with Cynthia, the necessary folks, and get back to us on any areas we may be out of compliance. I know that there's options for eSIMs and videos and things of that nature, and at our next scheduled meeting, I'd like them to present us with some options on how to improve our recording of all the meetings, how to store those meetings, video and audio, a central repository for public documents that's more readily available to the public, all in an effort to make the transparency of what's going on just a little bit more readily available to everyone who'd like to access it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion from council on this item?
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Peralt?
I think it's important that the city moves quickly with this. The city currently has 2 state investigations happening at our airport from the state auditor, as well as multiple public records requests. At our last work session meeting that we had last week, I took a quick poll of our department heads asking who had city-issued cell phones or devices. I think maybe 4 of our department heads did. Like we talked about a couple months ago now, when a public records request comes in, we have to comply with that, and if a department head is doing business on their personal phone, the city would have to pay the cost to have that forensically analyzed, which is an undue burden to our taxpayers. So we should move forward with also requiring department heads to have city-issued phones and all council members for the future public records requests that we will likely receive as a city.
Thank you, Councilman Peralt. Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Fritz?
I don't know if this is unusual or not. I just am not sure how a board of 5 people who don't necessarily agree often give direction to the city manager or staff, and that's what this is an attempt to do. It's provide direction. I'm not sure if we vote to provide direction in the past or not, but it seemed the appropriate way to handle this. So that's where these direction votes are coming from. Councilman Tyree Horton, if that's inappropriate, I'd be happy for you guys to talk to us later. This is inexperience doing these things here. I just wasn't sure when it was appropriate to communicate with our city manager and ask for these sorts of things. So that's where these votes originated from, trying to provide direction from them, or to them, from us as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Fritz. Is there any other discussion from council? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion carries. All right, that concludes all of the new business on our agenda this evening. The next item would be any other items from our city manager. Mr. Robertson, do you have anything for council at this time?
Yes, ma'am, just a matter of information.
Could you please speak into your microphone?
Thank you. I'll be forwarding the notification to the Division of Motor Vehicles that the city intends to close down the motor vehicle registration and titling service. We were required to do a 4 months notification, and so I'll be sending that letter off.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. All right, are there any other business items from members of council at this time?
I have a question.
Yes.
Any update on the city manager position posting or applicants?
Yes, sir, we've posted, and Nicole, I think we have 30, but Nicole, how many do we have so far? Yeah, about 30. Yeah.
When is it we move forward?
Well, we've actually forwarded all those applications to each one. I think the cutoff date is 2 weeks. Yeah, 21st. The cutoff date is the 21st, and then you'll have all the applications. And then you need to screen them. It depends on how the council wants to do it. There are numerous ways you do it, and we can advise you about how to do it. It comes to the league. Any way you want to do it, it's up to the council.
What would be best practice to receive?
The best practice is to continue narrowing down to the suggested number, whether it's 5 or 6 or whatever, and you can rank them,
Right.
1, 2, 3, and 4, and we can send them all to you, and you can screen them, and then we can meet, and then you can decide, and then you can have a verbal interview on the phone for 25, and then you can narrow it down to 10, and then the last 5 you do individual interviews.
Nicole, do you
It
mind
has-
coming up?
Yeah, it has to be very confidential, though. The newspaper and these reporters, when city managers come in from Alabama or Georgia or wherever, and they come here, they want to stop and interview them, and if they find out about it, those municipalities might let them go. So it's very confidential on the way that we screen the applications and bring them to City Hall for the interview process.
Thank you. Best practices from HR standpoint, anything different than what was just presented, or in addition to what was just presented, not a difference?
No, I agree with everything that Bobby has just said. I will wait to hear from you as a council, how many you want to interview. Like Bobby said, maybe via Zoom and narrow it down by phone. I would suggest at some point in time you bring them in person, your top 5 candidates. Yes. It can be done in many different ways.
Is there a way, in Madam Mayor and Council, that we could have somewhat of a subcommittee to ensure that the questions we ask are within the legal parameters to ask? Even if there's certain things that we want to convey or receive back from the candidate, we can do it in a way that's legal?
Yes, we have I have a list of questions that we've used in the past. I can get them all to you, and you can pick and choose which ones you want, depending on the length of the interview itself, depends on how many questions you really need to ask. And if there's some that you want to ask yourselves, if you'll run them by me, I'll be glad to tell you whether they're legal or not.
Nicole, would it also be normal for members of the interview committee to include other people outside of council, like say a town manager from a other town or someone from the League of Municipalities?
You can invite other people to join. I would save that for the very last step. And we could look at other municipalities and see what they've done in the past to see if that's something that the area you're moving to. But yes, you can invite other people. Yes.
Could you provide, if this is could you provide council with an idea of how you're screening the initial candidates? Because it seems like the subcommittee won't come in until you ensure that certain criteria is met. But also, like, if there's any other screening you utilize outside of what's on the job posting, would we be able to know that?
So I started by screening for minimum qualifications, but I was directed to send you all applications, so you got an application whether they met minimum qualifications or not. So I would caution you to, when you're reading those, to make sure you're looking at the job description to make sure those applicants meet minimum qualifications before you move forward with any of them.
So, Madam Mayor and Council, would it benefit us to only review the ones who meet the minimum qualifications to ensure that we stay within the appropriate guidelines?
Yes, however, I will ask, because I was one who emailed Nicole, because I asked about, because a person who applied had emailed me and said, Mayor Brabo, I applied, and they attached their resume and their cover letter, and they did not have
municipal experience.
And so all I asked Nicole was, what is the process? Because my understanding from speaking with some members of council is there might be an interest in moving forward with qualified, non-traditional applicants. And so I just asked if it would be possible for council to receive all applicants for consideration.
Would that not be a full council decision on how we move forward with that, rather than your idea of what some council members may want. Because again, there's certain legal pieces to that. If we're requesting certain things on that job posting, and then we talk about changing it up,
So
I'm not
I
trying to
was
speak in your space, but
I was instructed by the city manager to send them all to you, so I just want to clear that up. We have job description in place that has minimum qualifications. Unless you go and change the job description, I would suggest and advise you to stick with the current job description. If you wanted to change the job description, we would need to repost with a new job description and start the process over again.
so that sounds like something that would be a council decision if we wanted to change the job description. So
Yes.
would it benefit us to only review the applicants that meet the minimum criteria, rather than reviewing everyone and mistakenly choose somebody that we like? Would we be able to just see the ones that meet the minimum qualifications and select from that pile?
In the past, with other positions, we have sent through all applications. So this isn't outside the scope of what we've done in the past for other positions. But when it comes time to hire, if the suggestion is made to hire someone in a position that does not meet minimum qualifications, I would then step in and give you my best advice at that time.
Thank you.
So currently, the answer to the question is, we're gonna send the council all the applications that we receive, and it'll be via email, and then we'll collect it. Couple of other things you need to be thinking about in this process. One, are you gonna pay expenses from somebody that's out of state? For example, if you have somebody that's from Alabama and you choose them, and they're in the top 5, it depends on how the council wants to spend the money. You wanna go 50-50, you know, just pay for airfare, whatever expenses you wanna incur, you need to be thinking about that so you can instruct the staff. The second thing is the job description that we're working with. You need to be looking at it and be sure that we've got everything that you want. And the third thing is, and it's really important, is you need to concentrate on the salary range that you've got in the payroll classification plan.
Thank you. So I think what my fear is that we get all of the applicants in, and then we sit here and we redo the job description to meet an applicant, rather than giving the job description that is provided now, and then we choose from that pool. So if we get every application in, we find someone that we like, then we come back before council, and we change the job description to meet that one person. And I don't want to get caught in that.
Right.
I'd rather our focus
Understand.
be, we have the criteria there, you meet the criteria, and that's what's presented to us, so we can make a sound decision based on that. But that's just me, and I'll get back after that.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Peralt.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that process. I don't think anybody wants to change the job description. I think we just want a full-time city manager hired at the end of the day. So, and we're all CC'd on the same emails, so if there was an issue prior to coming to council, anybody could have responded to point that out as well.
I respond in open meeting, as I've just done. So again, what I've said for the record is that I would suggest that we only move along with applicants that meet the current criteria, so we do not fall into that space of finding an applicant that we want and then changing the criteria. So that's where I'm at.
I understand.
Are there any other comments from council? Specifically for Nicole first, so she can sit down if there's not. Thank you, Nicole. Are there any other comments from council this evening on this line item of the agenda? Mayor Pro Tem
Madam Mayor,
Fritz.
to Councilman Tyree's point, and maybe Nicole's as well, before we get much further down this road, I haven't looked at a single one of the applicants that have come through our emails. Is there some criteria that somebody's uncomfortable with? I believe we all approved that. Is there some criteria that somebody would recommend changing? Because I think now would be the time to speak up and discuss that. Just conversationally. Okay, that's it. Thank you. before we move on, I'm sorry, he did ask us, and she did answer, and I think Mr. Robertson answered. What actually is the next step for us? Are we setting up a special meeting to review 20 applicants or something? Is that the idea?
Correct.
Should we set that up today? I mean, I'm not sure the number of applicants that we have. Thank you.
Well, we've got the 2 weeks is the actual date, after cutoff date. We'll send them all to you, and then you can rank them.
So I guess the question is, instead of sending them all to us, could we just get the qualified people?
Agreed. Are we getting together to do that? Sending an email? Are we all going to get together and to choose our top 10 and then they get passed off to a council? Is that the idea? Or a designated group? I'm sorry, she answered, you asked best practices. Is that what the best practice is? I'm sorry. I may be a little slow here. I just didn't quite pick up on it all.
So you're asking me the next step?
So next step, we're going to get some number of applications on the 21st, I believe.
Yes, you can review applications prior to the closing date. You just can't offer a job prior to closing date. So since you all have to get together, I would suggest just doing it once and then hashing it all out. That would be my suggestion or advice. So after the closing date, we can make sure you have all of the applications and you can set a time to meet. Yes.
Okay, and the close date was the 21st?
I'll double check that and email that to you tomorrow, if that's okay, but I believe it was the 21st.
Thank you.
I got a quick question.
Oh.
So if you send us all the applicants, the applications, so my question is, what do the subcommittee do? If we review them all, what the subcommittee gonna do?
I don't think you have to have you could have a subcommittee, but I don't
So
think
we
you
don't have
to
a subcommittee?
No.
Oh, I was thinking, okay.
You would have an interviewing committee for your final applicants that you could invite other people outside of council to participate if you wanted that assistance through that interview process for making your final selection.
Okay, gotcha. There's a lot of conversation going on.
Yeah.
I'm just lost.
Some cities choose a subcommittee.
Okay.
Best practice, since we've talked about that, the entire council has input into the final 5.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does that make that more clear?
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Any other questions from council on this? Are we clear on the next steps? Okay. 21st, okay. Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Nicole.
thanks.
Are there any other comments from council? Okay, I would like to offer a few comments. I was going to make them under outside agency funding, but since we have tabled that for the time being, I do want to just address a few things. Like Councilman Peralt said earlier, he and I recently attended our Essentials of Municipal Government training. Under General Statute 160D-1311, city funds may not be issued as donations or used for capital or general operating expenses. Rather, municipalities may enter into contracts with outside organizations to provide specific services that extend the city's capacity to address strategic priorities and community concerns with defined deliverables and reporting requirements. As I reviewed the proposals that were provided ahead of this evening, it is evident that our current process has not consistently aligned with the statutory requirements. In several cases, requests reference funding for salaries, insurance, general operating expenses, and building-related costs. Under state law, municipal funds cannot be used for these purposes and must instead be tied to a defined service provided to the city under contract. There is no ill intent into how this has been handled in the past. However, now that there is greater clarity, I do believe council has a duty to ensure that we move forward in compliance with state law and sound municipal practice. To that end, I would encourage council to consider adopting a formal financial partner policy similar to those used by other North Carolina municipalities. This policy would establish a transparent, equitable process that clearly identifies necessary services, aligns funding with community development goals, and ensures accountability through contracts, measurable outcomes, and reporting requirements. We greatly value the work of our outside agencies, and I really appreciate the willingness of everyone who did show up to present this evening. I do believe that when the time comes, presentations like that will help inform council on a policy framework in order to ensure we set our financial partners up for success going forward. So that is all I just wanted to offer. Thank you, council. I'm happy to, I know Ms. Swindell has found a great example of a financial partner policy that would be happy to forward to the board. At this time, I don't have any other comments. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session.
I still have a couple, is that okay? For, yeah, I have a couple of business items, nothing crazy, I don't think.
Can't hear.
Madam Mayor, I move that the city council agenda be returned to the wording that's set forth in the city charter, is my first one, and I'll wait to do my second one after that.
We cannot add any items to the agenda at this time, as the amendments to the agenda were already conducted at the beginning of the meeting.
We're in any other business from mayor or?
Correct, but no new, action items can be added to the agenda at this time.
Franz, am I not allowed to make?
I defer to your mayor.
Okay.
She's your presiding officer.
Okay.
Did you have any other
What?
discussion?
Well, I did about action meetings. I think I can't ask about adding a second action meeting, because that won't happen.
You can have any discussion, make any comments, but no new items for action can be added to the agenda at this time.
Okay, yeah, I would like to have a discussion about having a second meeting to better manage the agenda volume and ensure meetings are conducted efficiently within reasonable time frame. So, and have possible 2 meetings per month, and potentially discuss that for future. All right, here 3 or 4 hours every time.
Does anybody on council have any further comments at this time? No? Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
I was reading when you asked for the comment. I was going to ask Franz a question about this, on what had to be read for record.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor, and y'all both tell me, did you just say simply?
To enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.
Okay, well, your agenda has a full motion for you that I would suggest that you, if you're inclined to go into closed session, that you make that your entire motion. And then respectfully, I would suggest that you begin your closed session with the entire city council, myself, their city manager, and your city clerk. And then if we need to remove participants after we do a couple things, we will do that.
Can we do it the other way around? So I can stay here and then join you versus me trying to come back out here? I just think it'd be cleaner.
It's up to council.
So I would like to make the
We have a motion on the
There's already a
floor.
motion on the floor.
So all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
No. Okay.
Under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, Alpha 3A3, attorney-client Bravo versus City, U.S. District Court, Eastern District of North Carolina, 425 CV 00207-D for Delta, B Bravo, M Mike. North Carolina General Statute 143-3188.11, A1, disclosure of confidential information, 143-318.10, Echo, E, Public Records Act. And that motion is to go in that order, if possible.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We've entered closed session.